So the next item on the agenda is we have a person who have a vacant seat. They're parent from PS 119, who would kindly fill out an application and fill the seat and to join the CEC. At this time, we just have a quick questions for you, very 2 intense, nothing crazy. If you just come forward, if you'd like to tell us, tell us a little something about yourself and why you're running for the council seat.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. My name is Bob McNeil. My son is in 7th grade, and yes, I have 119. I am running for position on the CEC because I think 2 things. One, I think education is extremely important. And we have a great group of schools in District 24. In my experience, I attended school in District 24. So I think all the schools are wonderful. They produce kids who like to go to school. I don't know anybody that doesn't like to go to school, which is super important because, education is something that you should be doing throughout your life, not just while you're in school. And then secondly, I feel like we should volunteer. As parents, we should have a say in what goes on in our kids' education. So those are 2 reasons why I run.
Okay. Bobby, you have partially answered this question, but I'm reinstating this again. It's like, how do you think you can contribute to the community as a CEC member? And what is your vision for education in this community?
What is the vision for education?
Yeah.
So I apologize for not answering that. What I think I can contribute is, I kind of, when my son was in kindergarten, and Phil Wong was part of the board member. And the things that were discussed during that time were so relevant in that board. All the regulations that were put forth were relevant to what was happening at that time in education. And I think that's important. I think the resolutions that you have put forth this evening, all 4 of them, are critical. This is what moves education forward, getting things done. One of the things that I spoke to Matt at Councilman Wallach's office at one of the events that we had. And at 119, our computer room was being built. It's been 2 years. And it's 1 room. And so I spoke to Matt about it. He's like, oh, let me know what's happening. So I'm on the SLC school. I also volunteered as an SLC member at my son's elementary school, Miss River as principal. And so I've had experiences volunteering and contributing. And one of the things that people know about me is I will not volunteer if I don't think I can make an impact. If I can make a positive impact, I will use my time to do that. If I can't, then I won't. Like that. And if I don't feel like the organization is, if I have a capacity to do that within the organization, I will do it because it's important. It's important for all of us. We all have kids. That's why we're here. And what was the second part of your question?
Actually, the first part was how would you contribute to the community of the CEC member?
Well, Okay, can you hear me online?
Test, test, test.
Okay, so to answer your question, I will get directly to the point. My background is in corporate strategy. I'm a corporate strategist by profession. And so, you know, I look at the big picture. In any environment that I'm in, I get to the point. What do we need to do? Why are we here? What's our goal? What's our purpose? And I use my skills as a corporate strategist to be an advisor at my son's private school when he first started. I use my skills on the SLT. So, like I said, if I can't, you know, if I feel like this is not an organization where you guys get things done or there's a capacity to do something meaningful, I wouldn't be standing here. I think the CEC is an important organization because it gives parents a voice, right? It's a view. We can convey our opinions. I mean, at the end of the day, this is all taxpayer funded, right? It's a public school. We should have a voice. We have a vested interest because our kids go to school in a public school. So I hope that answers your question.
And I was out at 119 the next day at 10:30.
That's right, exactly. I mean, how impressive was that?
That's CA. You get that project.
And the next day, I applied to the CEC because of you, because of, you know, I want to work with people like that.
Yeah, thank you. The last question is, please provide an example of how you worked with others in a team to solve a problem or an issue.
Sure. Okay, so when I first got into this, my son went to 290, and he was in kindergarten, and he took the yellow bus because he's in GT class, so we don't live nearby. And the bus was always late, seatbelts were kind of wonky. A year before that, there was an accident in New Jersey where children got hurt in the yellow school bus because of the seatbelt situation. Well, so I did some research and I found out that our city council had passed laws regarding seatbelts requirements on buses, and they had also passed laws on GPS tracking. And that wasn't happening because the bus was constantly late. My son would miss first period, forget about breakfast, right? And he's not marked late. And so if I drive him to school late, he's marked late. But if the bus does it, and if they're half hour late, he's not marked late. So I need to understand the business proposition of like, what is going on here? This is not acceptable SLA. You know, like this is not an acceptable, if I hire a vendor, getting to school on time is like #1 priority.
Sure.
Getting to school safely is #1 priority, right? Like these things are important. So what is going on? So I got on the phone with OPT. That wasn't working out too well. You know, I was put on hold forever, and they were giving me the runaround. So I went to my councilman's office. I spoke to Alicia in Councilman Holden's office, and I told her what was going on. And she's like, well, you know, you can call OPT, you can do this, you can talk to your principal. And I said, okay, first of all, you guys passed this law, and I want to know, the GPS law was passed because if you have GPS tracking, they know where the buses are.
Yeah.
They know if the bus started late. They know if the driver came late to the depot where they started. That's the whole point. But you pass a law and no one's implementing it. So what's the recourse? Well, you go, no, there's no well. Why are you passing laws that people aren't going to follow? So, you know, maybe you should think about inside the law, putting in parameters that say, well, if the law passes, you have to implement it within a certain time period. And if you don't do it, then you should get penalized. Again, this is taxpayer money. right? So, so eventually what happened was I made such a fuss that she called OPT on my behalf and they fixed the issue. And what was really great is the office was so grateful because when the bus is late, they have to fill out a whole bunch of paperwork. So the administration is spending so much time filling out paperwork through no fault of their own because the bus is late. And so, you know, when that whole thing was resolved, they were very happy because it was less work for them. And so, and I was happy because my kid gets to school on time. So, things like that. That's what I care about.
Yeah.
And I will advocate for things that I care about and what my community cares about because I think that's important.
Thank you. Yeah, quick follow-up. District 24 is a super diverse, one of the biggest districts, and how will you balance your personal beliefs with, you know, what our constituents and the parents that we serve need or want, even if it's different from those personal beliefs?
Well, I think what brings us together is education. I think if we focus on education, we're all on the same page. What does it matter? It doesn't matter where you're from or what your beliefs are. Everybody should care about educating our kids to the best of our ability. You know, we should be competitive. We should be raising kids that are going to be productive members of society. And we should be building a community. I mean, one of the things at 290, which I loved, we were able to build a community. I mean, everybody knew everybody. And, it was really easy to give feedback as a parent. I think everybody was on the same page. All we care about is making sure our kids get educated. And that's why we're here. So anything else is just noise. I mean, you know.
Great, thank you.
Any councilman have any other questions? So President, we have a 30 lead, President's Council. 30 any questions for the county?
Do you want to step over here and then you can, Miss Bob? Sorry, how do you say your name?
Bobby.
Bobby. You want to just stand right there, then you can see better.
Open up a Title I meeting, so this one might not help a little bit. But my question to you is this. Oh, by the way, I'm already the president. Are there any?
Sorry, you are what?
Bernie Lee, President Trump. My question to you is: are there any issues or name one that you think is overlooked in our district, and how we would address that, or lead the charge to get any kind of resolution in this CEC?
So I really care about GT. I care about merit-based education. I think it's important because once you leave this environment, you don't get a participation trophy in real life. That's just not how life works. And so, to that end, I would, focus on merit and GT. I think it's important. I think specialized high schools are important. And I love the fact that there's more high schools that are specialized, not just academically, but just, focusing on maybe construction trade or focusing on aviation. I think that's important, right? Because everybody's got different things that they want to do.
Any other questions for you?
I guess, how would you put the charge to making a change? Because you feel that.
Well, I don't know what the change is. I mean, I haven't done my research. I'm not in the position yet. So what I would do is figure out what the lay of the land is, right? What the rules are currently, what the situation is currently, and what people want. That's my opinion, and I know that that's what my friends want, but I don't know if that's what the entire community wants, right? And like she had mentioned, everybody has different views. So I don't really know what their views are because I'm not in the position yet to be asking those questions. So, I mean, I know what I want, but to be fair, I would do the research first and figure out what needs to be done. I couldn't give you an answer to that right now. resolution is a really good start.
Any other council, any questions? Nothing at this time, so this time, thank you very much for
Thank
taking
you.
questions from us, and kind of thank, and especially applying for the vacancy, truly do appreciate that. At this time, we'll do a roll call vote. At this time, we'll do a roll call vote in support of or not in favor of.
Matt Garcia?
In favor?
Gina is not here. Actually, Gina's online, but she can't open.
No.
Anna Forster? Brian Augustine?
Yes.
Olivia Bonner?
I have to abstain.
Alicia Jane? Kate Barbell? Yes.
Yes.
Brian said yes to that. Yeah. That's right. I am no. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yes, 1 no, 1 abstain.
So to pass, we need 7 votes. At this time, do we want to take another vote? Or do we want to wait till next month so we can the votes here?
Let's go into Gina's today.
Okay, so we'll do it next month, we'll take another vote, or if we have an emergency meeting in between with other topics, we'll put that in here, just do we need 7 votes. But thank you very much for coming out, we do appreciate your time, and we'll enjoy joining CEC24. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next item on the agenda is president's reports. I'd like to thank you again to Principal Jackson and her team for being gracious host to us tonight. Earlier last week, we had a team building seminar in partnership with Ramsbrook College through FACE and Maribel organized for us. Maribel is not here tonight and has jury duty. But just want to give a shout out to Maribel for doing that. So in District 24, during pre-COVID, during our build in 2020, the de Blasio administration built numerous pre-K sites in our district. 4 sites remain vacant. So beginning next year, 3 of the sites will be filled by Mosaic pre-K. We see 1 site still available. That site is located on Laurel Hill Boulevard. Just brainstorming by myself and just really mentioned the superintendent a few minutes ago. We're going to talk with the superintendent's office and Deputy Chancellor Fogarty about turning this site into an intense pre-K, K-2 site for, say, like IRE, for early intervention sites. These do not exist anywhere in the city. We would be the first of its kind. So the discussion would start and see if we can see if there's more data behind it, because that would be a great site for us to put that in as it's set together. So we just talked literally 5 minutes ago about starting that discussion. We'll be moving forward with that. The Chancellor held a CEC President's Town Hall on artificial intelligence. It is a hot topic now for everybody, students and everybody. It was a good discussion. It was the first of many, I believe. The same topics that we discussed at other CEC meetings numerous times. Increased screen time. Who's going to train the teachers to deliver AI instructions? They couldn't really give us a true answer to that. They said they'll just learn it. Well, that's not appropriate. Privacy concerns. And the biggest one, as always, is impact on students' ability to problem solve and think independently. It seems like they were trying to rush it through, but now the brakes are starting to go on a little bit. PEP did not approve any of the contracts at this time because they still want more parents' input. It's a very hot topic button, in my opinion. There's so many different views. The views go from one extreme to the other. There's really, you got to find that middle ground, and it's going to take additional town halls to get that done. Of course, President CEC24, I voiced support and concerns during discussion with those topics, the increased screen time. You know, how does it affect the kids' emotion? Is it, half the kids don't have personalities like the older people, because they're in front of that screen and that's like their crack. They run home, turn the guy head, and they don't get out of the house. So that's a topic we'll also be having with the chancellor moving forward. I'm sure there'll be one on a district level coming up too. As we go forward.
I think the DOE is still accepting feedback on AI till May 8th, so if anybody else wants to provide feedback.
Okay, we can just put that link in the chat also.
Yep.
Yeah, so feedback can also be provided to May 8th, so any parents that have comments regarding AI, just look in the chat right now for that link and fill out the form. Nothing else at this time, I'll pass over to Superintendent Rivera.
Thanks, man. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming out in support of the work that the council and that we are doing for Burlington. Great to see everyone. I think I'm gonna actually start where Matt left off because it's one of the slides. Are we ready to go? So AI is absolutely a hot topic. Matt mentioned the availability of a survey. That survey will be rolled out actually to families for the first time tomorrow. So tomorrow morning, we have coffee with the superintendent set up, 10 o'clock, right? Yeah, 10 a.m. And if you need the link, we can share that with you. Donna can share that with you. But it's also been shared with schools. We had a great turnout last month. And we're going to follow up the conversation that began then about AI, about the use of technology in the schools tomorrow, as our team will actually roll out and present that guidance that was mentioned earlier. So this is the first step in the direction of generating that guidance and generating like what the path forward will look like for our system, what the guardrails will look like. So what can and what cannot in schools, what should be happening. As of the 23rd, there were 4,080 respondents, and so we to that survey seeking feedback from the public. So they're seeking feedback from parents, from educators, from students, and our district has already begun that process of engaging folks. And so tomorrow, if you're available, 10 a.m., it's about an hour, a little over an hour. And so we will actually share the guidance with you step by step. We'll help dispel some of the things that have been kind of thrown around there. And so Matt was kind of moving to that as well. So folks are on different sides of the argument here, different sides of and so we're going to be really clear on what that guidance says, answer some questions, allow for some questions to be asked that folks maybe need to think through, and then we'll share the link with you all so that you can fill out that survey. So hope to see everyone tomorrow. Jackie, ready? So, did you mention so June 1st, we will be welcoming the chancellor back to our district for the CEC24 town hall. It's at 6 p.m. at IS 73. We conducted a walkthrough probably about a month ago, and so I think we'll be well prepared to receive him and fill the house. And so we hope that everyone here will be in attendance and bring some friends with you, bring your children with you. It's going to be a wonderful night. Looking forward to receiving him, to engaging him in some questions that are important to the community, important for your children, and important for all of us. Next slide. Right? Thank you. So summarizing sites are listed up on the board. So just this past week, we received those summarizing matches. We've already begun receiving some questions and some concerns from parents who have just some wonderings around their match or their space on the waiting list. So we're navigating those as best as possible. So we did open up 2 additional sites this year. So we hope that that addition will help alleviate some of the burden on families who are interested in having their children participate. District 24 is special in that way, while several other districts across the city struggle to fill the seats. We struggle to make sure that the applicants are actually getting seats. And so D24 has some of the highest attendance and across the city when it comes to summarizing, and we don't expect anything less this year. So we'll continue to navigate and support families as those responses are coming in. Our team has already begun the planning process with school leaders who are putting together the program, engaging CEOs. And one of the things that I encourage our principals and our assistant principals who are charged with supervising and supporting the summarizing program this year, I'm encouraging them to think outside the box and really use the time and the resources that they have available collectively to think through ways that summarizing can be an experience that our kids never forget. We've been encouraged to think outside the box, to be creative, and that's exactly what we're charging folks to do. So we're looking forward to the programming that'll be in place. We have several local partners who serve as CBOs who actually fulfill the majority of the CBO responsibility in the summer, and that's always exciting. Our local partners they're in close contact with the community. They have the community contacts and the connections, and many of the children who participate in summarizing also take advantage of programming during the school year, so there's familiarity as well. So looking forward to another great summer, and I can't believe that we are that close to it. So I mentioned a little bit about the summer CBOs, and they're listed up there. So the ones that I was talking about that have close connections to the community and to our schools, Mascot Town Hall, Queens Community House, Sunnyside, Greater Ridgewood Youth Council. Those are among the ones that are embedded in the community and supporting schools currently, and will continue to do that this year. So over the summer, we'll also be offering supports to our students with disabilities. And so actually, can you go back one slide, Jackie? Thank you. Oh, 2 slides. So listed on those summarizing sites, the ones that are bolded in or highlighted in yellow, those will serve as our extended school year sites. So this is, we're one of I think we're the second district to host 2 standalone ESY sites, extended school year sites. I think the other district is Staten Island's district, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong. Yeah, I think so. And so we have the highest number of students in our district who actually have the extended school year on their IEP. That's number 1. And then we have some of the highest attendance in ESY sites across the city. And so back in my former district, in District 9, we actually had a pretty large program. It's actually pretty small when compared to the number of students who are being served this year. So we're excited about it. The sites are on different parts of the district. So 128 will serve as a site, and 143 in Corona will serve as another site. And what we did this year is we're emphasizing the middle school grades for 128 because they serve students in middle school and elementary school students at 143. So we're looking forward to learning, to growing, and most importantly to have amazing programs. I'll tell you one of the things that I've been really passionate about, and I'll be working hard with our CBO partners, is to make sure that students in extended school year have access to the same programming that their non-disabled peers have. So you should all understand summarizing and the CBO supports that are provided, like the recreational part of the day, is something that is only afforded to students who are not part of the ESY program. There's nothing that prevents them from doing so, except for the fact that they're supporting students who have some of the most significant needs across our district, which is extremely challenging. A lot of our CBO partners also employ pretty young staff members, right? So these are college-age kids, who are home for the summer. Some of them, for some, it's their first career or their first job. And so these are younger professionals who are learning. And so matching them up with students who have really significant needs can be extremely challenging. I can tell you that from my own experience, it's possible. It can happen. I've seen it happen. We did it in my former district, and we will do it in this district as well. And so we're going to be working really closely. Hopefully, we can get some of our CBOs to sign on this year and give it a shot, even if we pilot with a couple of sections. And I'm looking forward to coming back and reporting out on that success. Thanks, Jack. And so, in addition to the extended school year program, we'll also be offering supports for our students who are in Horizon and NEST programs. So we have classes in 6 different schools at 91, 125, 153, 229, 247, and 298. And so you see in that middle column the ones that are designated ES, those are elementary school classes, and then MS, those are middle school classes. So we do have 2 middle school, we have a middle school NEST program at 125 and a middle school Horizon program at 247, and then 125, 153, 298, 91, those all have elementary school programs. And the number of classes are all to the far right, and you see 91 has, like, they're building, they have 9 classes. Next slide, please. And so I already shared with you about cups and conversation with the superintendent. So coffee with the superintendent, that's actually a picture of me. We took that picture last time we were up. And so we had a wonderful turnout. We had well over 100 families on. They stayed on, kept us on. They had a ton of questions. We worked to answer every single question, and we also wanted to be really respectful of their time. And so we want to make sure that we afford our families the same opportunity, and every time we try it out, we're going to get better at it. And so one of the things that we talked about was potentially having individuals come in and present on topics that our families are expressing interest in. Well, lo and behold, and this is before the guidance was released, during our first Cups and Convo with the soup, I mean, we heard it 5 or 6 or 7 times coming up in different ways, something regarding technology. If it wasn't AI, it was usage in the classroom, it was usage at home, it is like, you know, what are the potential harms that our children and our schools are facing. A lot of questions, a lot of wonderings, and even a couple of individuals who actually came out and were voicing support. And so, you know, as was shared earlier, there are 2 very distinct pockets of, like, you know, of opinion here. People are pro, people are not. And what I can say, like, if you're wondering what my perspective is, and I guess as a superintendent, it probably makes sense to share. My perspective is we are behind, right? So, like, technology has been rolled out for, I mean, I don't know how long we've been using tech in the classrooms. I know that the onset of COVID, we basically became one-to-one overnight, which means that almost every single one of our students now has technology and Wi-Fi access at home. That was something that was a dream prior to COVID, and it took a nightmare to make that happen. That said, in the time since COVID and from the return to school and to in-person instruction, like, now it's moved so far ahead of I think we were prepared and we even understood that we find ourselves in this situation. At the same time, it was in that same window where AI, I mean, in the very beginning of that window, AI wasn't anything that any of us really understood. It wasn't an everyday thing, and now every single person, everywhere you look, knows what AI is. Everyone knows what ChatGPT and Gemini and all these other resources are. It's being used widely, and I can tell you, like, we use it, like, on our team we use it. Most professionals in many spaces are using it as well, and still we do not fully understand it. I'll tell you a quick, true, funny, yet scary story. I'm at a friend's house the other day, and we were playing a game called Mexican Dominoes, right? So this is like a version of dominoes that was derived in Mexico. And the cards, the dominoes in this game are a little bit different than the dominoes that we see normally. So instead of, numbers up to 6, you have numbers up to 20. And similar to dominoes, like whatever you have left in your hand counts against you. And so we're left counting it. Well, the game is very long. And so you can imagine if you're unlucky like I was that night, you'll have 5 or 6 or 12 cards in front of you that you have to count. Some of those cards have 20 dots on it. And so I started counting, and then I lost count, and then I counted again, lost count, I can't. So a friend of mine says, let me do it. So he pulls all the cards over and takes a picture on his phone, and he asks ChatGPT, how many, what's my number? So he gets a number. So another one of my friends says, let me try. He does it. He gets a different answer. Takes a picture of the same thing, gets a different answer. And I was like, you probably didn't take a picture of one. So I look at both pictures, same picture. Third friend says, let me try. He takes the same picture, 3 different responses. And it was the thing that we were asking was simple, count the dots. So I'm not sure what I feel about AI. I use it, and we're behind. Right? And so I think this guidance is a step in the right direction. Tomorrow we'll spend an hour unpacking what that guidance says, what the implications are for teaching and for learning. We'll have an opportunity for folks to ask questions, hopefully dispel some of the things that people are confused about, that we may be able to provide some clarity on, and we'll take it from there. As was shared before, the window to provide feedback will close the first week in May, I believe. I think it's May 8th.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
May 8th. So the window's closing soon, and we definitely want to pop that number up. I mean, we support 800 plus thousand students in the system, and as of the 23rd, we have 4,000 responses. So we want to make sure that those responses tick up, and we want to make sure that the 24 is represented. So hopefully, if you weren't planning on join. How many folks can we accommodate, Donna?
Oh, like 300?
300. All right, so the first 300 are going to be for it. On the horizon. All right, so there are a few things coming up. So building social and emotional wellness at home is a series that's been offered. Spanish will be that pastor. That was pastor. And then actually both pastors should be here. Both very well attended. And that was the last.
That was the last one. We had 80 people at each of them, so 160.
Awesome. So that was the last in a series of offerings. Sorry that I repeated that, but we'll continue doing that. And we found that the level of participation in the evening was actually relatively strong, and we want to continue that. And just as a point of clarification and also information, we're also considering that for our cups in conversation. So conversations with the superintendent, that was one of the pieces of feedback that we received. Folks said, well, I work during the day, so it's really hard for me to participate, and I'd love to be a part of the discussion. So one of the things that we're thinking about with pilot an evening session, I don't know if we'll get to it this school year, but we have a couple of months. So maybe our May meeting, we'll try an evening session and see how that goes. And then hopefully we can find a sweet spot. And maybe it'll be both. I don't know. Maybe it'll be one or the other. So. Our care fair is scheduled for this Saturday, May 2nd, at PS 211. And so this is a day of care, literally, for our families. And so there's going to be information, there'll be resources, but there'll be also opportunities for our families to come in and after they learn to do a little something for themselves. So there'll be opportunities for some relaxation, there'll be opportunities for structured activities, all meant to fill the cups of our family members who work so hard, and our parents who are working so hard to ensure that their children are succeeding in school. We have our civics showcase in the beginning of June 2nd, and so we're looking forward to that. And finally, our We Are 24 fair had to be postponed. There was a last minute challenge with a permit that was unforeseen, and so we're going to start next year the way we started this year. So instead of goodbye to the school year. We're going to turn it into a welcome to the school year. So we're looking forward to getting going on the planning and sharing some details with you about that. So the second portion of the superintendent's report will be provided by members of our team. And so we're joined today by several members of our team who encompass the family engagement and empowerment pocket, or part of the portfolio. We have team members who support our English language learners in the 40 schools and even in the pre-K sites. And so we have 2 members of that team that will be presenting. And then we have someone who is presenting for the work that we do for students with disabilities. So one of the things that's come up that the CEC has even recently asked for questions and information about, and actually requested this as we were doing it anyway, is we want to know more about what's happening. And so this evening you're going to hear a little bit about what we set out to do this year. So we'll talk some about our goals. Each of the 3 groups who are presenting today will speak to specific goals that we established this school year. Early in the summer, we honed in on them. They reflected what we believed was the current state of where we were with parent engagement and involvement, with our multilingual learners, and with our students with disabilities. So the demographic of D24 and our multilingual learners, they encompass over 50% of our population. So I've been spreading lies. I've been saying that D24, a third of our kids are ELs. That's true. They're currently receiving support as English language learners. But in addition to that, we have thousands of others who were ELs and are known as ever ELs, because once an L, you're always an L. And so these students have tested out and no longer receive mandated services, but are currently sitting in our classes and in our schools as lifetime English language learners. And so that's actually north of 51%, which is fascinating, that 1 of 2 students in our school system is an English language learner. And so you'll be hearing from Pauline and Maria in a sec, and they'll talk to you a little bit about the goals that we established for ourselves and for them as learners, the work that they've been doing in schools, which has been incredible. Some of the exciting initiatives that we're a part of, they'll share some of that. But more importantly, they're going to talk about the impact of that work, and they'll talk about the implications for where we go next. And so I'm excited to hear about that. Similarly, you'll hear from Jackie Atkins, who's going to talk a little bit about the work that we're doing specific to students with disabilities. She too will talk about some of the initiatives and programs that we're engaged in, the impact of those initiatives, and more importantly, what is our next step? Where are we going from here? Students with disabilities encompass 14% of the students in District 24, which doesn't sound a lot, but then when you do the math and you ask yourself, what is 14% of 33,000 kids? That's a lot of kids. Something that we're seeing, not just in our district, but across the city, is a pretty persistent uptick in the number of students and in the percentage of students who are classified ASD on the autism spectrum disorder and are being supported in community schools. And so it is up to us to ensure that our teachers, our principals, and our providers are supported so that they understand how they can support the needs of these learners who fall into a really big bucket. It's a spectrum disorder, so the needs of a student with autism can be here, can be there, can be all those places, and some are different tomorrow. And that takes a lot of flexibility, it takes a lot of knowledge, and a lot of support. And so we've been working hard, and Jackie will share a little bit about one of the initiatives that we've taken on this year. I don't want to steal too much of their thunder. And so I'm going to stop talking so that they can begin.
Yeah.
If you just talk more about what happened with the permit, why did they deny the permit?
I can't, maybe Donna can speak a little bit to it.
Yeah, I can. So what happened was it was a conflict with the bathrooms. The bathrooms are being repaired. So without bathrooms, that changes everything.
Why?
Because so what we would need to do is, no, that would be a Parks Park. So, and I have to say, I just wanted to shout out to Parks Park They are amazing, but it was a really big lift, and to keep the integrity of the event without swapping everything around, we just felt that next year we can kind of do it in a stronger sense. The great thing about Forest Park is they have that band shell and that serves the purpose of that event the best.
The bad thing is that one of the bathrooms is sort of around.
They're doing, well, that's good. I'm glad, I'm really excited, I'm hoping next year they're the best bathrooms in the city, and I'll show them all. Good evening, everyone, I am Donna Murphy, I'm the Family Support Coordinator, and what I'm going to share with you over the next couple of minutes are the goals that are specific in our DCEP. These goals will be the last time for the next year, 2 years, maybe 3, maybe forever, that you, Zoom, this is like a double. I don't know what to do with this. Next year, the next couple years afterwards, what you may not see is standalone goals. They're going to be embedded into the priorities. So this year, I have the joy of sharing the standalone. And I want to say that the thing with parents' engagement, parents' empowerment, and our is that to measure. There's no questions. We don't have data that comes from, let's say, state tests or ELA or math to really share. So, or to actually use as an assessment. So, leading up to this, the way that we have compiled this is through surveys, through listening, President's Council meetings, DPAC meetings, anything that we're at. You know, that is the opportunity for feedback from the parents. And CEC, one of the goals was specific to a CEC meeting. And so we took that and what we know behind the scenes, and we created goals with our parents' involvement. I'm not into that. We looked at District 24 to see who we were, like we do with everything. You'll find that at the beginning of the DCEP, you put your eyes on it. And this is where we began. The first thing we looked at is parent governance, and the reason that we looked at parent governance is that our governance structures are the best opportunity for parents to have a voice. And so the way that we do that, the way we looked at it here was to how do we measure it? We were looking at the PACs. All Title I schools have a PAC as required by federal law, and they're meant to upload the information. When we looked at it last year, only 20% of the schools were uploading it. So we have begun doing that. And what that shows is that those meetings are held, that it has a place to commence with. And so our goal for this year, when we get to it, I think it's 80%, maybe lower than that. But what I can tell you is we're really well on the trajectory to hit that. We're working really hard on it, and so are our schools, as well as our parent leaders. The next one was digital access, and the way that we're looking at that is through the mix activation. And so right now, I actually think this is, when we put this together, 69% is what we looked at. I had a meeting today with Central, we're at 72%. And the reason that we're looking at that is that that is the access that parents have to lots and lots of information. It's like having your ATM card. If you don't have access to your bank, you're not going to know what it's at. You're going to have to go to the window, right, during the hours, when the school is open. Mixa allows you to have that all the time. And so we're working on that. What you're going to notice over the month of May is a huge push with our schools to get that. And in addition, just to let you know, this doesn't end with a new creation on the DCEP, because although we put it in there, we recognize the value of this even if we're not measuring it. That doesn't mean we don't look at it. We met with our PCs yesterday, and actually in May we're going to plan doing the NICS stuff earlier in the year instead of waiting to the end. So hopefully you all have a NICS account, because I'm looking for that in that spot. And then lastly, it's under academic communication, but really what that is as a result of one of the CEC meetings and constant input from parents that superintendent has met with and the deputies. There was a clear need for parents to understand what was happening with their kids in the academic portion, meaning through grades. Parents with IEPs were interested in there was disparity, and we noticed that. Some schools were giving everything out, other schools, it was only in one form and not the other form. And without judgment, what we realized is that we really need to figure this out, see where we're at, and then make plans to move from there. And so that is that's more of like a, you're gonna see it, that's more of like a planning stage, as opposed to really measuring it. At some point, it'll be measurable in a different way. It's more about implementing. And then once again, these are just the root things. I'm gonna move past that because I just spoke about that. And then that's where we were talking about, actually, I have a very small goal. It's not really small. 60% from 20%. We're gonna bypass that. I have absolutely no, we're probably past that already. And that we're gonna know by the path. So if any of you are on a team, on an SLT, or work for school, please remind, say, how's that PAC documentation going? Because the more help we get, the better off we are. The NICSA, once again, our target is 82%. We're well on that. I'm actually now going to be meeting with Central constantly to discuss ways that works. And then on a central level, the FSC, Family Support Coordinator, FLC, Family Leadership Coordinator, across all of the districts are working together to share practices that are working across the city that we may not know about. And then lastly, this is that reporting card thing. Our goal is eventually for all our schools to we're going to be able to let you know what it looks like. But that takes some time because every school, their community is unique. We don't want to create something or make something happen that isn't really fair to some other school and parents. So we're taking, right now we have a survey out, we're gathering how often, what it looks like and how it lands. Because we can do the best. We can think we're doing great on our level, but if it doesn't help your experience, it may not really be the best, right? So that's our goals. They're easy. They're easy for us to explain. And then lastly, I do want to just say this. So when we talk about all three of these things, the components of each of them are all different lanes. So we are working with our parent governance structures, meaning our President's Council made up of PA members, our DPAC made of PAC members, and we are talking about governance, parliamentary procedures, the purpose of those organizations, and how eventually they will belong together, and how they support a school, and how does the school support that. So that's what's showing there. But that's not the only people we're working with. Over the summer, we're going to have workshops for principals. Next year, we're going to work with the APs. Everybody needs this parent work. The way it was 15 years ago is not the same. It is really a whole, just like you have a whole child approach, parent work is really become a whole school approach. NICSA is the same thing. Right now, it's like living in the lane a little more of the PCs and the teams that the schools have. That's going to expand. You definitely will see that. And then the report card and the reporting of academics. I want to use that, and I don't want to be negative, because sometimes we use the word reporting as though it's negative, but really it's about the reporting. How are we ensuring that our parents understand how their kids are doing in a consistent basis, know when to expect it, getting it in the format that's good for them, and not leaving anyone out. And we know that in a district as big as ours, and with so many different languages, that it takes a lot of mindfulness. And so we're beginning that work. And I think that is all for our goals. Thank you.
So I told you a little bit about the next two ladies that are coming up. Just wanted to give them a little bit of a shout out. We're one of them. So Pauline, the one to the left, had to exit work a little early today because she wasn't feeling well. And so 5 hours later, I get here and I see her face. I was like, wait, was that an old email that I read today? I was like, why is she here? And I asked her, I was like, why are you here? So she looked at her partner, she looked at Maria, she was like, I couldn't let her go by herself. So, just hats off to her for definitely stepping up and coming to support not just her partner, but the district and our kids. And so it's not enough that, they're doing work that will impact half of our district, but sometimes they have to do that, not feeling well. So thanks for coming out.
Thank you so much, Anthony, for that. Good evening, everyone. My name is Maria Vassilios, and this is my buddy here, colleague, buddy, best friend, work wife, etc., Pauline Samartzis.
Good afternoon, good evening, I should say, everyone. It's great to see you all here tonight, and we look forward to presenting and letting you know a little bit about what we do.
And what we do is support our multilingual learners or our English language learners across District 24. So we wanted to begin this presentation by defining English language learner. Who is an English language learner? An English language learner, or short for ELL, is a student who comes to our schools and speaks a language other than English. So there's an interview that happens at the school level, both of the student and the parents, and then there's a determination by the school whether the student's home language is English or another language. When it's another language, then the student takes what's called the NICETEL. This is an entrance exam or identification exam to see whether the student is indeed an English language learner. So when the student takes the exam and scores under commanding, that means the student indeed is an English language learner. And these students receive extra funding for our schools because they have to get services by an ENL provider. Just so you know, multilingual learners, you see the umbrella right there, that's a bigger term or broader term, and that includes our English language learners, but it also includes students who are English proficient who speak a second or third language at home. Students who are bilingual but are English proficient are called multilingual learners. But not every multilingual learner is an English language learner. So let's move on and take a look at our district.
Okay, so Superintendent Rivera spoke a little bit about our demographics in the district. We currently have approximately 31,000, almost 32,000 students in the district, of which 10,472 are English language learners. That comes to about 33% of our district. And then if you look at our former L's and you count them along with our ever L's, students that were an L at some point, we are just about at 52% of our district. So it really does make up the fiber of who we are in District 24, and we are the district with the most L's in New York City. Again, if you break that number down a little bit further, we call them our L subgroups. Our students are put into different categories. We have our newcomer category, which is subgroup, which are our English language learners that are here for 0 to 3 years, and they are considered our newcomers. And then we have our developing L's, which are here from 3 years to about approximately 6 years, and they are about 20% of our district. And our newcomers are at 75% of our district. So that is our largest subgroup. 75% of our students are newly arrived to our district and fall into the 0 to 3 year category. And then we have our long-term L's, which are L's that have been receiving services for 6 years or more. And that number is it's significantly lower, and we're really happy about that. It's a number that we have been working on for the last few years to lower, to ensure that our English language learners are reaching proficiency. Now, speaking of proficiency, our L's fall into 4 different proficiency levels, and that would be the entering, emerging, transitioning, and expanding level. And when we look at our numbers here, our largest proficiency level is actually, even though our 75% newcomers, 0 to 3 years, our largest proficiency level is at expanding, which is great, which means that we are doing what we need to do to help our children to get the language that they need in order to be successful academically. And however, it is the hardest proficiency level to move our children through. So we get them there, but now we have to do that hard work to ensure that we are continuing to work with them, give them what they need in order for them to reach that commanding level and proficiency and be, in that former L category. So this is why we always say we are all teachers of L's, right? Because with 52% of our students really being either a current L or a former L, every single teacher in our district that touches a student is a teacher of ours. And we work very hard to ensure that our students get what they need all the time. And we're going to talk a little bit about what we do in the district and what our goals are in order to get our students where they need to be.
So goals are very important in our district because in order to succeed and progress and, push our students forward, we have to set goals. So the first goal for District 24, priority 1, all students learn to read well. Specifically, we have a goal for literacy. For all students, we expected a 10 percentage points increase from 46 to 56% as measured by achieving a level 3 or 4 in the New York State ELA exam. Specifically for our English language learners, however, we are expecting a 5 percentage point increase from 8 to 13% as measured by the same exam by June 2026. And then for students who are not taking the ELA state exam because they're in K-2, we have a separate goal, which is for all students to increase 10 percentage points from 43 to 53%, but our L's to gain at least 5 percentage points from 14 to 19%, as measured on the Acadian screener, which is a screener that all students take in K-2 3 times a year. So let's see how we've been doing with regards to progress monitoring for our English language learners. So you see here, the first screener that is listed here, and Pauline is nicely showing, is our math growth assessment, which grades 3 to 8 students take. And here, students have to at least achieve a 41st percentile, and we're specifically talking about our English language learners. We started off with 5% as the baseline, and our target was 7%. However, we have achieved 8.9% mid-year, which is 1.9% above our target. Very close to 10%. I think we're going to hit it out of the park because 10% is just a little bit more, as you can see. So I think we're going to go beyond 10% by the end of the school year. And then for Acadians grades K-2, we are expecting our L's to grow from 14% at the beginning of the year, and the expectation of the target was 16. However, we hit it out of the park already because we have achieved 19.3%, which is 3.3% above our target. We surpassed it already, so this is going to be beyond 20+%, hopefully by the end of the school year.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about a central initiative that we have been involved in this year. It is the ELD pilot, the English Language Development pilot that the city had this year, and we were very fortunate as a district to be included within that pilot, given the number of L's that we do have within our district. And we were part of, they had 2 cohorts that were involved in this pilot. We were part of the cohort that was using a program called English 3D for our standalone instruction. And that instruction is given to our entering and emerging L's because they do receive 180 minutes of standalone English language development instruction. And this pilot was developed in order to ensure that our students are receiving the instruction they deserve in order to be able to access the content within their classrooms and to help to build their English language proficiency and build that academic language. And the program that we were using, is it was a really great program to build that academic language, and it involved some fantastic routines that are just good practices to utilize regardless of whatever program we are using in our district. Structuring partner routines and setting up a lesson task, ensuring that our students know what we will be engaging in, right? There's no guesswork here. We're going to really just be upfront and let the students know that we are going to be echoing, right? We're going to be building your reading fluency by echoing what the teacher is reading and getting comfortable with the content so that the children are able to participate and be part of what's happening within the classroom, right? Using response scaffolds, giving them the language they need in order to be able to speak and to be able to respond during the lesson. Opening it up for a range of responses within the group, and then monitoring how is the lesson going and what extra supports do our students need, or what supports do we need to remove, and let the children fly at that point. These are great essential routines. It was a really good program. However, the city has decided that the program the other cohort is using will be the program we are moving forward with. And we are really excited because I think they were both very strong programs, and knowing that we are going to be continuing with the pilot and knowing that we are still looking to strengthen our standalone instruction, that is our main concern and our main goal. You know, supporting our students is always at the forefront of everything we do. We were fortunate enough to have the author of English 3D visit our district multiple times over the course of the last few years. Dr. Kate Kinsella has been an integral part of changing the way that we think about instructing our English language learners, and has been a voice within our district, has spoken to our teachers on multiple times, and we're really excited to hopefully continue that relationship with her moving forward in the future. We have done several professional learning with our teachers. We've invited them out, and they've had Dr. Kinsella as well as Jennifer Finney Ellison actually model lessons for them. So it's really been an honor to be able to work with them and to be able to share that knowledge with the teachers within the district, because we are all teachers of that.
So in our district, we also partner with a nonprofit organization. Their name is the Language Unity Collaborative Education Solutions, or for short, LUCES. And in this collaboration, we wanted to strengthen ENL/ELA instruction so that our students are better equipped and gain access into the curriculum, which is very challenging for them. So we wanted to develop our teacher skills, where there's a co-teacher, an ELA and an ENL teacher teaching together. And we really focused on 2 grades, 5th grade in elementary school, 6th grade for middle schools. There were 11 schools in this collaborative, and we used text from our shared curriculum that we were using in District 24 into reading for our elementary schools and into literature for our middle schools. So here, we're really focusing on advancing academic language, and we want to bolster the EL's comprehension when they're engaging with complex text. We also have a smaller collaborative where 4 of our schools are taking part, and here we're strengthening bilingual programs. Our dual language programs in 4 of these schools using strategies based on the core academic language skills, and these skills, or this framework, has been developed by Dr. Phillips Galloway. And here we see Dr. Phillips Galloway, who came from Vanderbilt University to present alongside our LUCES partners and with our teachers and administrators at our learning center in person. These sessions take place either in person or virtually, and so you can see she's here, very famous author and researcher. Again, all these efforts are in service of really advancing our students' achievement, because our students deserve the best education they have, and we will only receive that education when we are supporting our teachers and our administrators in providing them that education.
So in order to ensure that our teachers are successfully providing that education, we host meetings with our L coordinators. They're called our liaison meetings. And the first, usually they're about an hour and a half long. The first hour, we really dive into instruction. And we bring them new strategies, ways to be able to develop lessons. So we invite our liaisons, our coordinators, but we open it up to any teacher that wants to come. We don't just say only our liaisons only. We offer our professional development to all that want to learn and want to come and ask the questions that are important for them within the classroom, right? To help them with their instruction, what they do on a day-to-day basis with our children. So we bring our teachers whatever we're learning at the professional developments that we attend in Central. We try to model for them. We ask for their input and their feedback because, again, they're the ones that are in the classroom with your children, with the students in this district, and we want to ensure that we're supporting them the best way that we can. And here, we also work with our principals and our assistant principals. We support the NAFTA P+1, as well as the ELA P+1 with Maria and I. And we, whatever we bring to our liaisons, we try to bring to our principals and our assistant principals within the context of ELA and NAP. And you can see some pictures here of us interacting with these very important people within our district, as well as providing on-site support and professional development within our schools. And these are pictures that we're taking within our schools and our classrooms throughout the district. And we would like to thank you all for coming and listening to us tonight, and we appreciate it.
So next and last up from our team is the leg of the team that supports and coordinates supports for our most vulnerable learners. So Jackie Atkins is one of two on our team. Her partner couldn't be with us this evening, so she's ready. So you hear a little bit about that.
It is the best part of the day. So buenas tardes y bienvenidos. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the special education presentation on improving outcomes for students with disabilities. So my name is Jacqueline Atkins. I am the special education instructional support for our district. Our AZ, our Administrator of Special Education, Yael Benamosh, could not join us, so you will be spending your evening with me. I just want to spotlight who we serve in special education. So the district serves over 32,000 students, as the superintendent mentioned earlier. Of the 32,000 students, over 6,300 of them are students with disabilities. That is a total of 19% of our students that we're focusing on for this presentation and that we serve in District 24. So for this presentation, we're going to focus on 3 areas. We're going to look at the DCEP priorities 1 and 2 and our goals. We will focus on the Inclusion Innovators Program that the superintendent talked about earlier. And lastly, we will take you through how we build capacity in the district to strengthen our special education goals and to achieve better outcomes for our students with disabilities. So for priority 1 of the DCEP, all students learn to read well. Our goal is to increase by 5 percentage points from 19% to 24% those students who are achieving a level 3 or 4 on the ELA exam. Our goal is to achieve that by June of 2026. For priority 3, all students have a high quality academic experience. Our goal is the same, to increase by 5 percentage points from 25 to 30% all students who are achieving a level 3 or 4 on the New York State math exam. So let's talk a little bit about the Inclusion Innovators Pilot that our district was chosen to participate in this year. So the goal of the Inclusion Innovators was to partner with the Division of Inclusive and Accessible Learning of the Special Education Program, the Special Education Office, and partner with the coaches to receive high-quality instruction and provide in-person support at the school. 5 of our schools participated in the program, as you see here: PS58, IS73, PS110, PS305, and PS343. As Superintendent Rivera mentioned earlier, 40% of our students in District 24 are on the autism spectrum. And so it was important for us to begin looking at and serving those students within our community. We use the Autism Support Implementation Toolkit to guide the work that we provided to schools. Can you just click once? I want to give you an example of what that work looked like when we focused on improving the Common Corner for our students with autism. So right here on the left, you see we started focusing on improving the environment, the sensory environment for students. And as we work with teacher Ms. Kelly, you notice that this was her Common Corner design. When we came together in partnership, we opened the space. On its face, it looks very simple, right? Just some paper, some color, a few pillows, and a rug. But what this Common Corner is a very powerful tool for teachers and inclusion. You all know that schools have auditoriums with events, and sometimes it's very difficult for a student to successfully transition into the instructional space after noise, loud music, loud voices. And when they enter the classroom, this space is a very powerful space to allow them to self-regulate. And so that's why we focus in the process of our work. We started with the Common Corner. This was the Common Corner in the elementary school. I want to show you the Common Corner in the middle school. So here, Mr. Casal and his team to PS73. This was the before Common Corner within the middle school. And all of us know middle schoolers are challenged with academic rigor, they have social emotional issues happening, and they too need to transition to the classroom and have a space that they can work. So the team at 73 worked in collaboration with the students. This is why we're so proud of this team. Can you one more time? So they go from this Common Corner to now students having a voice in the development and implementation of their own Common Corner. They chose the purple stool. They chose some of the items that you see here, the headphones, the mindfulness coloring, some of the lighting. All students had participation in what went into the Common Corner. So you see how this simple shift from here to here with student voice and student participation creates a space where students can be regulated within the classroom rather than having to go to the principal's office or to a counselor or to a different room or to their favorite teacher. They get to regulate within the classroom. So we're very proud of some of the work that we've done to make sure that our students with autism are included in the instructional space. They can thrive within their own communities. They don't have to go to place else. So for the sake of time, we won't play this video, but this video is available to all of you, and Donna has access to the video. This is a very powerful video of a second grader explaining why the Common Corner is such a powerful space for him. And towards the end of the video, he tells the teacher, it makes me lots of happy. Right? So it makes us lots of happy that he's happy with his new space and he can regulate himself and thrive in his classroom. So we were very excited that our Inclusion Innovators Program in District 24 was visited by the Chief of Special Education, Suzanne Sanchez. She was interviewed by this dynamic duo of the PS58 Peace Productions, and they were very prepared. They interviewed her and asked a lot of questions about her goals for special education. She engaged with the Inclusion Innovative Classroom pilot, and we just want to thank Principal Tripoli and her team for not only supporting the classroom that we work with, Ms. Kelly, but there are other classrooms within PS58 where there are very strong inclusion practices. So a big shout out to her and her team. So how do we build capacity? So there are two ways in District 24 for special education that we strengthen the work that Superintendent Rivera, our deputies, and our executive director are working on. So two ways. The first is we build our leaders. As Pauline mentioned, we have monthly meetings where we invite our APs of ELA plus a supporting partner in the work. We do the same for math, and we do the same for our special education liaisons. They have hands-on activities. I will show you that in a minute. We do the same in our schools. We build capacity with the principals. We have meetings with principals, data dive, discussion, walkthroughs. The principal would identify a problem of practice. We would then design professional learning to support that work. We build teacher capacity, could be a professional learning, meet with a teacher one-to-one or a small group to support the work. And for us, all roads lead to the IEP, whether it be compliance or instruction. We work with teachers to develop an IEP that speaks to what the student needs and what their unique needs are. I'm going to talk to you about SDI in a moment. And then we focus on instruction, especially design instruction. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a moment. This is a quick example of what building capacity looks like in District 24. We invite the APs of different departments, whether it be ELA or math or special ed, and we engage them in hands-on work and discussion. The photo on the bottom right is a product of the hands-on activities that they engage in, and then they go back to their schools and they replicate or duplicate the work that we do. It could be specially designed instruction, explicit instruction, or small group instruction. And we support the work with visits to the school, conversations, or whatever is needed to ensure that the work moves forward. This is another example of how we support. We visit schools. Again, we work closely with the principals to determine how we can strengthen special education practices throughout the schools. This is me doing one of my favorite things, a professional learning on specially designed instruction. And as you can see, we like to have fun doing our capacity building and our professional learning, but always with a focus on improving outcomes for our kids. So what is specially designed instruction? So I've talked about that a lot. So in a nutshell, specially designed instruction is what the teacher does to remove barriers so that students access grade level work. So it's how we teach students, right? Is what tools and designs we create to meet their unique needs, and how the student gets to show what they know. And the goal is always the same, to provide access to grade level work. So let me show you what that can look like. So here with professional learning, where teachers are engaged in developing specially designed instruction. The teacher on the top left has designed an SDI, and that's a term that you're going to hear a lot, for a student to access the beginning, middle, and end of a story. So here you see that she has this special tool that she will teach the student how to use, and this is called an SDI, a specially designed instruction. The photo on the top right, a teacher has designed an SDI where there is a sentence strip, but the teacher knows that the student likes pocketbooks. So what she did was she specially designed a pocketbook where the student can hold the words she's learned and mastered and can refer back to it whenever she needs the words. Same thing here in the center photo. The teacher knows that her student loves seashells. So she designed a specially designed instruction that includes the seashells, but it's also able to help the student read and use the tool. Here is a teacher working in collaboration with a paraprofessional. We haven't talked a whole lot about our paraprofessionals, but whenever possible, I ask principals when programming permits to have paraprofessionals as part of the instructional learning. Because paraprofessionals are our instructional partners, right, in the work. And so here's a teacher. We invited the parents to participate in the work as well. So that is SDI. That's what SDI can look like. So what is the impact of inclusion innovators? The impact of capacity building? The impact of what Superintendent Rivera and the deputies and what all of us, the principals, the APs, you, the families, right? What's the impact of all of that? So let's show you what we're doing. So we're very excited that through our K-8 schools, we're seeing phenomenal numbers. So in our Acadians, our K-2, if you notice, for the beginning of the year, we started out at a 27.4%. We increased for the 2025-2026 school year by 2.1 percentage points. But if you notice, we are going in the right direction as opposed to 2024-2025, where we were just at 2 percentage points. Same thing for MAP growth. 19.4%, we started out beginning of the year, middle of the year, 26.7, a whopping 7.3 percentage points. And that is a testament to what everyone is doing together. The math scores are through the roof, right? We started out beginning of the year 20.4%, middle of the year 30.3%. We're so proud that we're seeing almost 10 percentage points here. And look at last year, we were at a negative 2 percentage points. Very impressive. And this is everybody working in concert to make sure that these numbers are moving in the right direction and that our kids are getting the best support that they can. So what are we looking at forward, right? So we want to deepen the support that we currently have, elevate instruction, more specially designed instruction, more explicit instruction, more small group instruction, and create stronger outcomes for kids. Next. So we're looking at these basic 3 things, but very powerful. Expand school-based coaching cycles for SDI, specially designed instruction, explicit instruction, and small group instruction. And you know that that is aligned to the New York City League's goals. We're going to launch family workshops focused on literacy, math, and IEP understanding. That's one of my babies. So you're going to see me doing that. Support schools in planning inclusive structure. 14% of our kids are on the spectrum. So we have to make sure that our kids are educated in our district and that they receive the best possible support that we can offer. And we want to thank you for special education. So again, a shared commitment between all of us, and our numbers are going to go through the roof. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments for me? It's still working.
Any questions about special ed?
Guess I have a quick question. Oh,
You have the screen.
sorry, I'm back here. My question is, if a parent is having a question about special ed services or getting the IEP like early in the process, like they're not in school yet, should they, I guess, when should they, the parents reach out to you or Yael, or when should they reach out to someone in the school, like a special education representative at the school? I'm just trying to understand.
Anytime you have a question or concern, parent can reach out to someone in the school or call the district office.
And you would direct them to the right person.
My email and Yael's email are at the end of the presentation, which we will share with you. But we're always here, so they can reach out to us and then we will contact us.
Thanks.
Like you talked about the specially designed instruction. I know it's like, because as we all know, that AI is like coming, so my question was like, so my question was like regarding the SDI, with technology advancing and AI coming in the scene. So I just want to know, like, would you be incorporating, I know for especially like STW students, like autistic students or anyone, like how would you incorporate that thing into your instruction? Like, is it possible? Like, because over a period of time, we don't want those students to be, lacking behind in any terms, right? So is there anything using incorporating or using in your...
So how are we incorporating AI to improve instruction for students with disability? So as the superintendent mentioned, the chancellor has put together guidelines for us educators around AI instruction. So of course, it will be part of how we build and strengthen instruction for our students, but we have to follow the guidance. So the guidance right now is in draft. It's clear the steps that we can follow. And we will be following that, but there's more to come. And it will be exciting, but we have to operate within the parameters. So it's a very good question. And it will be part of it, we just don't know to what extent, so stay tuned.
It's like exciting.
It's very exciting. Anything else about special ed?
Jackie, I just wanted to jump in. So one of the panel members asked a question about like how do we escalate a concern, which reminded me of something that I've been meaning to share and share widely. So I would always suggest start locally, right? Oftentimes, and depending on the situation, I'll speak for myself as a parent. When you feel like emotionally charged, depending on the situation, you want to jump. You want an immediate answer from no nonsense, and so you jump to the top, and you jump as far as you can. And we skip those steps, and the steps are like, even when things come to me, I have to turn around and I have to engage the school. And so we can't bypass that, right? And so what I would suggest, not just for advocating for students with disabilities, but anything. Start locally. If it's a local issue, if it's a school-based issue, start with your school. And if you're not receiving a response or that response is not satisfactory, then start stepping up, right? And even beyond us, there are mechanisms that we utilize at times to support some of the questions and concerns that our families are facing. But what I have found over the past 16, 17 months is there's a little bit of a culture that exists where they jump straight to the district and they want to answer straight from the district. And so the question is always the same: what does the school say? Sometimes you hear crickets, right? And sometimes we haven't gone there yet, or we had a bad experience, so I just need the answer from you. And still, okay, well, we have to engage the school. So I would encourage everyone, whether it's, an academic concern, a concern with a child's IEP, or the services they are or not receiving, or the quality of the services, whatever it is, engage the school first, and depending on that answer, then consider what the next step is. But as Jackie said, like, our work is to support our families and to support our students. So, we'll always be here to support.
I have a follow-up from the comments here. Thank you for the presentation. I have a question. Who is our best contact for Horizon programs and ASD program placement issues or questions? A lot of parents have been asking questions about waitlists, not hearing back, and I've also heard from schools not being able to fill their seats.
Jack, you want to take it?
Can you hear me? So again, Superintendent Rivera has explained the process, but you can forward your inquiries regarding that to the district, because I'm not clear on who the contact is, but we, myself, and Yael will be happy to get that information for you.
So, thank you, Sergeant. There's a specialized program placement office, and so there are officers who support specific districts, and they are the appropriate, that's the mechanism, that's like the starting point. So once a child is identified as a potential candidate for a specific support, it's that office that makes the initial determination on placement.
Okay. This is a comment from the chat. So
Okay.
is there someone I should direct
Yeah,
them
I'll pull the
to?
name,
Okay.
and then you can talk back in. Thanks.
Thank you for the presentation.
Yep, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Really appreciate all your information. Thank you very much. And now we'll move on to the exciting resolution. What's that? We can actually bring any questions now, and we did also prior to the presentation, that's what Charlie spoke. Now, resolution 198.
Resolution number 198. Sponsored by Matthew Custer, resolution amending the class size reduction law to prioritize the earliest grade level. Whereas the New York State Legislature enacted Chapter 556 of the laws of 2022, amending Education Law 211B to establish mandatory maximum class size limits of 20 students for kindergarten through grade 3, 23 students for grades 4 through 8, and 25 students for high school. And whereas the statutory implementation plan mandates an incremental 20% annual increase in compliant classrooms without regard to grade levels, targeting 60% in September 2025, 80% in September 2026, and 100% by the 2027-2028 school year, with failure to comply risking the loss of around $1 billion in state contracts or excellence funds. The law also requires New York City Public Schools to publicly post an annual report by November 15th, and mandates a corrective action plan if the state determines the report does not show sufficient class size decreases. And whereas the law restricts exemptions to 4 narrow categories: space constraints, over-enrolled students, teacher license shortages, and severe economic stress, all of which must be jointly approved by the Chancellor and the President of the United Federation of Teachers and Council of School Supervisors and Administrators. And whereas the New York City Department of Education announces 64% compliance rate for the 2025-2026 school year. The analysis of publicly reported New York City Public Schools class size data indicates that this target was only achieved through the approval of approximately 10,500 exemptions for classes exceeding statutory limits, meaning actual compliance within the administrative classes stands at only 59.5%. And whereas state and city education leaders have testified that the New York City school system will face extreme difficulty meeting the next statutory deadline of 80% compliance in September 2026, as the September cliff would require an estimated $602 million in additional annual funding and the hiring of approximately 6,000 new teachers, which no workforce pipeline currently exists. And whereas without targeted statutory adjustments to the implementation timeline and compliance methodology, the City of New York may be unable to meet mandated class size thresholds, risking both widespread exemptions and the potential loss of significant state education funding. And whereas the class size working group minority report issued in 2023 accurately predicted this impending failure and proposed amendments 2 years ago, such as implementing a phased-in approach by grade levels and extending the full implementation timeline to 20 years that would have allowed the city to avoid the current fiscal and spatial crisis. And whereas the Department of Education, in partnership with the UFT and CSA, has successfully implemented a school-based approach that invites individual schools to develop their own compliance plans matched to specific building configurations and student needs. Early implementation data shows this approach has accelerated compliance by 27 points in schools that receive dedicated staffing funding, demonstrating that full compliance can likely be achieved citywide within a time frame shorter than the 20 years originally proposed in the minority report. And whereas the opaque exemption process is decided at a centralized level by union and city officials about the knowledge of formal requests of individual school principals, and skirt the fundamental intent of the law, underscoring the urgent need for a structural fix that returns decision-making authority to the communities closest to each building. And whereas testimony from the New York State Education Department is again blocked out.
Time to go home. Is this a hint?
Or maybe that's a break.
Time to go home. I can go to the sentence. No.
It's a sign.
Very dramatic.
Whereas testimony from the New York State Education Department carries on mayoral control confirms that school stakeholders are demanding precisely that kind of democratic community input into school governance, a standard that integration of school leadership teams into the school-based approach for class size planning effectively models. And whereas school leadership teams are the legally mandated governance body for every school and must consist of an equal number of parents and staff, including the principal, the PTA president, and the United Federation of Teachers chapter leader, because these teams are responsible for the school's comprehensive educational plan and possess the most intimate knowledge of their specific building space constraints. The SLT is the only appropriate body for making informed decisions about school configuration, including determining whether to seek exemption from the class size rate. And whereas the UFT and SCA have already demonstrated constructive partnership in implementing the school-based approach citywide, transferring exemption authority for space constraints and over-enrollment to school leadership teams extends that collaboration to the school level. So UFT chapter leaders and CSA represented principals, both required SLT members, are best positioned to weigh building-specific conditions alongside parent representatives in the interest of students. And whereas decades of educational research, including the Tennessee STAR study and subsequent national analysis, demonstrate that class size reduction produces the greatest academic benefits in the earliest grades, particularly kindergarten through grade 2, where smaller cohorts facilitate individualized attention, critical early literacy development, and stronger teacher-student relationships. And whereas both publicly reported and internal data confirm that compliance deficits are concentrated in the earliest grades, the New York City Public Schools FY26 class size reduction plan shows below average compliance rates within the K-3 grade band. As school year 2025-26 data illustrated in Exhibit 1 shows that the highest frequency of non-exempt classes exceed the statutory caps occurs in kindergarten, followed in descending order by grades 1 through 5. And whereas prioritizing compliance with class size limits in the earliest grades would align statutory implementation of the strongest body of educational research, ensuring that the students who benefit most from smaller classes receive those benefits first, while New York City Public Schools continues to expand classroom capacity for upper grades. Whereas New York City Public Schools has identified 495 schools as Group 2 schools, defined in the FY26 class size reduction plan as schools requiring targeted capacity interventions, statutory class size limits, highlighting the widespread systemic challenge across the district. And whereas while New York City Public Schools is actively utilizing non-instructional Zoom conversion to clean space, this measure provides only a temporary stopgap and is insufficient to meet the long-term mandate. Furthermore, the New York City School Construction Authority typically requires 5 or more years to design, approve, and complete new school construction on major building expansions, which is necessary for long-term capacity. And whereas large-scale public infrastructure and workforce expansion initiatives rarely progress at a constant linear rate, instead, project management research demonstrates that implementation typically follows an S-curve, in which early progress is slower due to planning and capacity constraints before accelerating during full execution. Applying this framework to the New York City Public Schools class size reduction effort suggests that achieving full compliance will require a longer implementation timeline aligned with realistic workforce and construction capacity. Whereas the current laws focus on actual classroom caps rather than average class sizes, severely restricts the ability of school leaders to optimally allocate instructional resources across grades and makes it mathematically more likely that schools will be forced to seek exemptions due to minor fluctuations in enrollment and scheduling constraints. Therefore, be it resolved, Community Education Council 24 formally urges the New York State Legislature to amend Education Law 211D to ensure its successful and sustainable implementation across the New York City school system by aligning statutory requirements with workforce, infrastructure, and enrollment realities. 1. Amend the timeline for compliance. The statutory compliance timeline should be revised to prioritize early grades, ensuring the younger students who benefit most from smaller classes receive the earliest reductions while still committing to full system-wide compliance as the school system expands staffing and classroom capacity for higher grade levels. K-3 full compliance by September 2031, 4 through 5 full compliance by September 2033, 6 through 8 and 9 through 12 full compliance by September 2037. 3. Decentralized exemption authority. Amend 211B to authorize school leadership teams, which includes union representatives, the bodies most familiar with the union space constraints and programmatic needs of their respective schools, to determine whether class size exemptions based on space constraints and over-enrolled students are necessary, replacing the current centralized DOE, UFT, CSA oversight process only for these two types of exemptions, while leaving the exemption approval process unchanged for the system-wide problems of teacher license shortages and severe economic distress. 4. Adopt an averages-based metric. Shift the method for calculating class size compliance to use the average class size within a grade level for each school, rather than requiring rigid per-class caps. This approach preserves the law's objective of reducing overall class size while allowing school leaders to allocate teachers and classrooms more efficiently across grade levels and respond to enrollment fluctuations. Be it further resolved, CEC24 urges the New York State Education Department to adopt grade differentiated compliance reporting in its annual review of New York City Public School class size data. specifically tracking and publicly disclosing KPA compliance rates under the distinct metric set for grades 4 to 12, beginning with the annual report due November 15th, 2026, so that progress for the youngest and most research-supported grade band is transparent, measurable, and prioritized in any corrective action plan issued to New York City Public Schools. The annual report must also determine year-to-year progress in each of the grade levels. So the floor is open for any comments or questions?
I like your off. So, I know Leah, you had a few questions regarding this. They sent. So like some of it was like we mentioned about like.
Do you want to use this? So,
So what this option would do, and specifically what about having 2 teachers in classroom? This would give the school the authority to do that. Instead of going too late, having the UFT fill an exemption form, and then it goes out of the system. It goes somewhere where, honestly, they can't even tell us right now the exemption process. So what this is asking for is to have the SLT, the parents, principal, everybody on SLT, make the decision that they see best fit for the school at that time. If it is bringing 2 teachers to a class, or, you know, we don't want to get rid of the arts room, we want to keep that, we want to get more capacity, we could do this, but we need the time to be in compliance. Like 119, we need to build an annex. That's the only way we're going to need this. If not, the possibility is we put exemption, we don't receive the exemption, now we're out of compliance. What does that look like now we're out of compliance? Does that mean we take students out of the school and put them into another school? So the exemption process, nobody truly knows. And this is to kind of straighten that out so the school has more to say. The extension of the timeline, SCA, to build a school is, what would you say at the time? I think 7 years. I think go to 9, go to 9 years. So by 27, 28, there's no way the city can be in compliance with this in the 27, 28 school years. So if we're not in compliance, the penalty is DOE loses $1 billion in funding. So if we can never meet it, it's a goal you can never meet. It's just 2 timelines in reality. So we don't want to lose $1 billion in funding. So that's what this is asking for, to give us the option to be in compliance, putting 2 teachers in a room, or thinking out of the box until that annex is built. Or the problem in our district is we can't find land. We've been searching since I've been on it before. You come over here, like next door, 19, there's no land in here. So what do you do with these schools? Do you ship the kids to District 14? Because they have a ton of capacity. They have like 50% capacity in that district. So we don't want to send our students out of that district. So the school can kind of lead the way.
maybe I can just fill in folks online who didn't hear what I had emailed ahead.
Oh,
of time.
okay,
Is that
sure.
okay?
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Is there another microphone? I think they all just migrated.
So just to fill in folks who are online, ahead of the meeting, I had emailed some questions about these resolutions. So for this one, my main question was around, personally, extending the compliance timeline to 2031 or 2037, to me is just far too long from the original stated goal of 2027, 2028. I understand that the current law is not feasible, the current timeline is not feasible, and it's not really even producing ideal results, given like principals are having to convert elective spaces into classrooms, and they have physical limitations, like you mentioned, such as like literally not having enough classrooms. So my thought was, how can we offer other ways to meet compliance besides just diluting the compliance method? My fear is that if the SLT is managing whether or not each school has the ability, is in compliance or not, that will kind of dilute the power of the law, and whoa, it's distracting with the lights. That it will dilute the power of the law, and that individual schools will just say that they need an exception and never fully comply. So thank you for addressing those details. There are a number of questions in the comments, but if there's other questions from the council or people in person, I would love to take those as well, I think. Or what do you think, Matt? What would you?
I was just gonna say that sometimes.
You want to use the microphone for people online?
Sorry. My concern is that SLTs don't work the same in every school.
Mm-hmm.
And so to put it there, when we know that some SLTs work okay and some work better and some don't work at all, I don't think it's a great idea.
Okay. Because the only question of, don't forget to put that in there, because who's going to make the decision in that school? So they can come and tell you, well, we're not going to give an exemption, so we're shipping 49. 128 has a ton of capacity.
Right.
They have 30,000 seats.
Yeah.
We're taking 1,000 kids out of 49 and putting 128.
Right.
So it's that autonomy that you have as an SLT saying, no, we don't want that, is now gone.
Understandable, I mean, that may not be the greatest example, only because at the other end of the park for each other, so the commute is not that terrible for whoever's maybe from 49 to 128. I think it's understandable, but at the same time, we don't know how the SLT functions at 128 as opposed to 49. And so there may not be a discussion. There may not be a true discussion about what happens. That's just my major concern.
Okay.
I guess I could just read the comments. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. This is from Whitney Toussaint. The minority report is highly flawed, and a 20-year timeline represents too many generations of students that wouldn't get the benefit of smaller class sizes. Additionally, the minority report was composed by people with ties to the Manhattan Institute and Place NYC, who wrote op-eds containing misinformation about the mandate being unfunded, and continue to write op-eds that use often racist dog whistles, using terms like busing kids to put images, often code language. Using buses kids that way frames certain students, usually Black, Latino, immigrant, or low income, as outsiders who don't belong in a particular school or neighborhood, and saying kids are going to be pushed out of their neighborhoods to struggling schools that are high poverty schools with weaker academic outcomes is problematic as well. I'll just read them all.
Or just questions? Yeah.
I guess, yeah, Whitney, do you have a specific question that you want to ask? I don't know if you're still. She's asking, are we allowed to ask questions?
If you have a question, yeah.
Yeah, if you have a question. I don't know how to unmute.
Or just put
Or
your
put it
question
in the
comments.
chat, yeah. I guess for time, I'll just read all the comments, and then if there are specific questions that you want to put in the chat, please put them in the chat. This is from Kayla Spence. I understand the operational challenges, but moving to an average-based metric weakens accountability. Averages can mask inequalities within schools and allow some students to remain in overcrowded classrooms, which goes against the intent of the law. As a parent, I don't care about averages. I care about the actual number of children in my child's class. This doesn't make sense to me. The resolution rightly calls out overuse of exemption, but then proposes changes that would actually make it easier to bypass meaningful compliance. That feels contradictory. I have concerns about shifting exemption authority to SLTs. While local input is important, this could create inconsistency across schools and inequities between communities depending on capacity and advocacy. Kayla follows up by saying that this feels like we're adjusting the law to match the current system limitations rather than building the system to meet the law. That sets a concerning precedent that I find problematic. So Whitney's question is, why was the minority report cited given its issues? It criticizes the STAR report cited later in the resolution. The minority report criticized the Tennessee STAR study and stated that since the STAR study, there have been no consistent successes to validate the STAR conclusions. So I guess that's
an opinion.
is it opinion, it's a question about citation, which, I do, was the citations cut off? Because they were not noted in the copy that I got.
In the one that's sent.
So I guess another question is the goal here to meet the intent of the class size law or to make compliance more achievable within the current system constraints? How are we balancing the two?
To currently meet the class size law? To currently meet the requirements of class size law is not a reality. It cannot be done in this short time frame. We can't build schools to handle the capacity. I would say meet the capacity for 24, I'd probably say, I would say at least 5 schools. If not more. Why about 5 schools we need to build? And the reality is, by having it done by the 27, 28 school year, is not reality.
Superintendent Rivera, I'm curious, like, what is, because this feels like a district problem or a city problem. You know, like, we have this law, it's not feasible to meet the current deadlines. I appreciate that Matt has generated a number of different options. I think some of them are not quite right, but I mean, is it the CEC's job to find a solution here? Obviously, it's great that we have an opportunity to weigh in, but I mean, isn't this a bigger problem than just the CEC?
So it's a bigger problem than just District 24. It's a challenge, and in most places, it is the challenge across districts. It's a challenge in pockets in districts, as what we're experiencing. And there's a number of factors that are in play that result in the challenge that we're facing. And so I think it's important to note that those benchmarks, except for, like full compliance, those benchmarks are as a system. And so while each of the districts are working to do whatever we can to ensure compliance, that overall compliance and those overall compliance targets over the years are system-wide. So we're factoring in compliance across the entire city. I think there's definitely a couple of standout schools for us where they're at over 100% capacity. So these are schools that, with the space that they're currently occupying, they're overcrowded. They're using everything they have plus some. This is where office spaces get utilized. Public assembly spaces oftentimes will get utilized as well. So in situations like that, there are no clear, immediate responses, right? And so that would mean a long-term strategy to reduce enrollment at a given location, or to consider building. And both are potential and potentially viable, but a lot goes into that. So if you reduce enrollment at one school, where those students going, you have to account for where they're going to go. And when you have pockets of schools that are like within close proximity, so as an example, it's like 119 and 113. If you pull from one, there's actually no real overflow site in that situation, right? And those are 2 of 4 of our schools. So this is not a district-wide issue that we're facing. Our district-wide compliance is actually relatively high, so we're able to meet the need. And to the question, as you asked the question, like, is this the CEC's job? I mean, I think the CEC's function is to comment and to provide opportunities to think through some of the challenges that the district is facing and that the school system is facing. And I'll also say, like, this is work that the system as a whole is engaged in right now. And so I think, you know, the more that we pull in perspectives from our community, and that community includes families, then, you know, I think the likelihood of us encountering viable solutions increase. So, hope that answers your question.
Roll call.
Any questions from anyone on that floor? Matt Garcia?
Support.
Anna Corsa? Brian Augustine?
Yes.
Lily O'Connor?
I would really like to support this, and I think we need some adjustments. I'm not in alignment with the long lead time. I understand there's physical constraints, and I think we need some additional data and information around how the SLTs are involved. Yeah, so I don't think I can sign on as is right now.
Yeah, what is that?
So you abstaining or you without?
I don't, what if, I guess someone, do not support.
Alicia J? Kate Barlow?
Oh, sorry. Okay, can I abstain? I like a lot of it. There's just a couple of things that I'd like to discuss, so I don't want to kill it. Can I?
But you never kill a resolution. A resolution, if you vote it down now, you can come back every single month.
Okay,
They
so
never
can,
But you come back with a different number, that's all.
okay, so I guess I'm a no, but not because I don't agree with parts of it. There's just a few things I want to tweak, so
So you don't support it?
I feel I don't support it.
Yeah, no, it's not.
You can just say that.
Yeah.
And Joyce McHugh, no. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So yes, and 1, 2, 3, and also the resolution does not pass tonight.
Then your next check-in.
Okay, that's
Our next check-in.
perfect. All right, yeah.
How we want.
I don't- because I just-
The next resolution is resolution 199, resolution on improving school governance and the mayoral control of New York City Public Schools. Whereas pursuant to Chapter 364 of the laws of 2022, the New York State Education Department conducted a comprehensive review of the structure, accountability, and community engagement practices under mayoral control of New York City Public Schools, and whereas at public meetings convened by NYSED between December 5th, 2023 and January 29th, 2024, testimony overwhelmingly identified the following systemic failures in the current governance structure: excessive concentration of authority in a single executive, reducing transparency on consequential policy decisions, including budget cuts that directly affect students and schools, centralized. Are those footnotes on the bottom of that? Or is it part of the resolution? I can't see the word, maybe it's not there. I'm sorry. Centralized decision-making, creating a one-size-fits-all approach that disregards local community needs, limited institutional checks and balances constraining exercise of unilateral authority by the mayor and chancellor, too many mayoral appointees on the panel for educational policy and their lack of independence, lack of meaningful community engagement such that divergent and pluralistic views are largely excluded, absence of meaningful policy-making authority for community and citywide education councils, bodies established by law specifically to ensure democratic community input into school governance, and whereas the public testimony yielded the following informed recommendations: reducing the share of trustees held by mayoral appointees to restore balance among stakeholder voices, restructuring PEP membership to ensure proportional representation for parents and school communities, strengthening CCPC authority relative to the PEP so that families and communities have genuine decision-making power at the district level, holding public forums on major policy changes to allow for meaningful deliberation and shared decision-making, and whereas the New York City Council Committee on Education convened this public public hearing on mayoral control of New York City Public Schools on February 10, 2026. Testimony at that hearing substantially reiterated the structural concerns documented in the NICET report, confirming that the identified failures remain unaddressed, and whereas effective governance of the public school system requires a balance of executive accountability, democratic representation, operational efficiency, and meaningful community participation, and enforced mayoral control should seek to strengthen these principles while preserving the system's ability to implement coherent citywide policy. And whereas the statutory authorization for mayoral control of New York City Public Schools is scheduled to expire on June 30, 2026, and Governor Hochul has proposed a 4-year extension of mayoral control as part of the state executive budget released on January 20, 2026. And whereas Mayor Zoran Mamdani has expressed support for a 4-year extension of mayoral control, citing the need for clear accountability and capacity to execute system-wide policy changes across the school system of New York City scale and complexity, and has proposed the following reforms as part of that extension. Meaningfully engaging parents, teachers, and students in decision-making, expanding awareness of and participation in CCEC meetings, with particular attention to accessibility for working parents, expanding the authority and scope of CCECs, and whereas Chancellor Kumar Samuels has similarly supported a 4-year extension, committing to give families and communities greater voice in how the school system operates, and has initiated rural-level community conversations with parents, advocates, and community members to gather input on governance and policy. And whereas in April 2024, the state legislature expanded the PEP to 24 voting members and CECs to 12 members, while the expansion was intended to broaden representation, it instead produced a governing body of unwieldy size. And whereas the governing board of the 15 largest school districts in the United States range in size from 5 to 24 members, with a mean of 10.3 and a median of 9 members, the PEP's 24 members represent a statistically significant outlier among these systems, raising serious concerns about deliberative effectiveness. And whereas research on nonprofit and public governance consistently finds that decision-making bodies larger than approximately 10 to 12 members experience diminishing deliberative effectiveness as discussion becomes concentrated among a small subset of participants, while the larger body functions primarily as a ratifying forum. A 24-member PEP far exceeds this evidence-based threshold, and as demonstrated by the competitive analysis in Exhibit 2, is a pronounced statistical outlier among the governance structures of the school system. And whereas under the current 24-member PEP, the mayor controls 58% of the appointments, 14 members, one of whom is an independent chair, selected by the mayor from nominee lists provided by the leaders. Borough presidents hold 21%, 5 members, and CEC select just 5 members. The same number as unelected borough president appointees, effectively marginalizing the parent community whose children are directly served by the system. Whereas Education Law 2590-B provides that 5 PEP members shall be selected by CECs, yet that selection is not a democratic election open to parents at large. Instead, candidates are screened and chosen by a small group of CEC presidents within each borough, excluding the broader parent community from meaningful participation in determining who represents them on the PEP. And whereas pursuant to 2590-B, regulation of the Chancellor D20 composition and selection of the members of the New York City Board of Education establishes a process whereby a nominating committee screens applicants and presents a narrow slate for election by CEC presidents alone, a process conducted without public notice or transparency, and in which parents who are not CEC presidents have no vote and no visibility. And whereas the 5 borough president appointees to the PEP are carried over from the 2002 Board of Education governance structure, borough president appointees, unlike democratically engaged parent representatives, bear no direct accountability to the school community they govern, meaning that presence on the PEP as voting members dilutes the influence of the elected parent members, and where CECs are intended to represent the interests of parents, and the most important duty as stated in 2590-E is to promote achievement of educational standards and objectives relating to the instruction of students. Yet the same section also states The community council shall have no executive or administrative powers of function, which effectively prevents CECs from fulfilling their statutory mandate, further disenfranchising parent voices, and where state law requires CECs to submit an annual evaluation of the superintendent to the chancellor, yet no equivalent obligation exists requiring the PEP to evaluate the chancellor. The executive whose decisions most directly affect the system's nearly 1 million students, creating fundamental asymmetry and accountability, and where state law increased the number of authorized non-voting student members of CECs to 2 in 2022. However, the descriptive eligibility criteria limiting candidates to high school seniors who hold elected student leadership positions has reduced an 84% vacancy rate across the city, demonstrating that the current standard fails to generate a sufficient pool of engaged and qualified advocates. And whereas neither borough president nor public advocate appointees to CCECs are required to be parents of children enrolled in public schools, but to have any children in the district, Education Law 2590-C authorizes borough presidents to appoint 2 voting members to CEC, and Education Law 2590-B authorizes the public advocate to appoint 2 voting members to each of the 4 citywide councils on the CCHS on a shared basis, and such appointees will make a significant contribution to improving education in the district. Yet the statute imposes no requirement that either set of appointees have a direct stake in the schools they govern, undermining the accountability of these appointments and compliance. And therefore be it resolved, Community Education Council 24 formally urges the New York State Legislature to condition the extension of mayoral control on the enactment of the following structural amendments in Education Law 2590 as necessary to address the systemic government documented in the NYSED report on mayoral control of the New York City Public Schools. Improvements for the PEP. 1. Streamline governance. Reduce the number of voting members on the panel for educational policy to 12 to bring its size within the evidence-based range associated with effective deliberative governance. Balanced appointments. 6 members shall be appointed by the mayor. At least 3 of those 6 must be parents or legal guardians of children enrolled in specialized programs, special education, IEP, bilingual, or English as a new language for District 75, and 1 independent member who also lives chair of the board. Democratic representation. 5 voting members shall be parents or legal guardians of children currently enrolled in New York City Public Schools, elected citywide through a democratic process administered by the Department of Education, Office of Family and Community Empowerment, using the established CCPC election infrastructure. Any parent or legal guardian with an active New York City school account shall be eligible for it. Independent chair nomination. The independent chair shall be selected by the mayor from the pool of nominees provided by the public advocate and the 5 borough presidents, replacing the current selection process involving state legislative leaders as codified in Education 12590-B. Ex officio advisory expertise. Designate borough president appointees as non-voting ex officio advisory members with the right to introduce motions, participate in executive sessions, and serve on standing committees, ensuring borough-specific perspectives that inform citywide policy, while final voting authority remains with the one elected. They are all appointed members and independent chair. Chancellor accountability. Require the PEP to conduct and submit to the mayor and city council an annual performance evaluation of the chancellor, parallel to the existing statutory obligation to evaluate district superintendents, and require that the evaluation be made publicly available within 30 days of submission, followed by a written response by the chancellor, and continuity of service. Extend elected PEP member terms from 1 to 2 years to allow sufficient time for members to develop subject matter expertise, build productive working relationships with community leadership, and provide meaningful oversight, consistent with internally used and comparable public governance bodies. Improvements for CCDCs. Decentralization, district level flexibility. Grant greater decision-making rights to district superintendents to tailor district-wide educational policies in consultation with CCECs to address the unique needs of the community, for example, improving access to high-demand academic programs that may be curtailed under one-size-fits-all policies that are centrally determined. Shared decision-making. Building on the district-level flexibility granted above, and with respect to the statutory duty of CEC to promote achievement of educational standards and objectives related to instruction of students, authorize shared decision-making rights for CCCs and the district superintendent on the development of high-level educational goals for the district comprehensive educational plan. Such shared decision-making shall include participation in establishing district priorities, reviewing proposed dogmatic changes affecting multiple schools, and providing recommendations on district-wide academic initiatives prior to final approval by the superintendent. Increase student voice. Expand eligibility for non-voting student CEC members to include any high school junior residing in the district who demonstrates civic engagement in honor societies, competitive academic or athletic teams, or student union involvement. Ex officio advisory status. Designate borough president and public advocate appointees to CCCs as non-voting ex officio advisory members with the right to introduce motions, participate in executive session, and serve on committees, while reserving final voting authority for the democratically elected parent members. Quorum integrity. Amend education law to exempt CCCs from general construction law by defining quorum as a majority of currently seated in office members rather than a majority of total authorized membership. Unfilled vacancies can prevent councils from conducting lawful business, effectively suspending community representation in affected districts. CEC24 resolution mitigates the effects of vacancies in community and statewide education councils, July 11, 2025. Be it further resolved, CEC24 urges states to take the following administrative actions to complement the statutory reforms above and ensure broader, more equitable community participation. Meaningful community engagement. Convene public forums prior to the adoption of any major policy change, providing communities with adequate notice and opportunity for meaningful deliberation before decisions finalized. Student engagement. Develop and implement a structured outreach protocol and in coordination with high school superintendents and school principals to actively recruit eligible student members and ensure every CEC student seat is filled within 60 days of vacancy arising. A comparable recruitment protocol shall be developed for the appointing authorities responsible for student seats in the 4 statewide councils: the Office of Special Education, the District 75 Superintendent, the Division of Multilingual Learners, and the Citywide Student Advisory Council. CEC authority. Coordinate with the PEP to amend regulation of the Chancellor A655 to include the President of the District CEC or designee as required voting member of the district leadership team. Direct democratic elections. Coordinate with the PEP to amend regulation of the Chancellor D200 to eliminate the nominating committee and allow for full democratic election open to all eligible, consistent with the processes for election of CEC members. Elections infrastructure. Publicize the PEP candidate application period using existing outreach mechanisms. That administer the election of parent PEP members using the existing CEC elections infrastructure, including mixed-up voting, and publish a public election calendar no later than 90 days before each election date. Contract services. An independent advisory services firm to ensure independence of the election process. Be it further resolved, CEC24 urges that the reforms described herein should take effect upon the action of the necessary means for education national sovereignty for elections of parent PEP representatives under the new structure to be administered before December 31st, 2026. Now, open the questions or comments?
Question, comments, or member don't make any changes?
Sorry, I was leaving space if others, but I have some questions. So I guess I'm just wanting to like zoom out for a second and understand the basics of the proposal. So going from a 24-person body that's majority mayor nominated appointees, and are any of the folks currently elected?
Right, what?
People on the board, people on the panel?
Yes, each borough appoints a person, correct?
They're not elected.
But they're not elected?
No, they're elected.
They're elected by the CEC president.
The CEC presidents get together, they use a rubric,
That like limited,
And the rubric, when I was on it, wasn't followed.
got it. So there's like a limited pool election for some, you said it was like
Yeah, so
21%.
So what they're looking to do is take that away from the CEC presidents. Let everybody, let all parents in the district have a decision.
Right.
Who's elected to PEP.
Okay, so currently it's 24 people. You said 58% are appointed by the mayor, 21%, about 5 are, or not about 5, but 5 are appointed by the borough president, and then 5 are elected by CEC presidents.
Yes.
And what we're proposing to move to, I was just not clear on the numbers here. I see that it's 12. So you're recommending that we reduce it to 12, given the current 24-person body is sort of statistically large.
Yes.
6 would be appointed by the mayor, so half. And then what is the rest? Like I was getting a little lost in the rest.
The rest would be CEC parents. The parents would pick somebody. Then also remember, D75 is their own CEC. So that would be 6. So it would be 50-50 control of the power.
So 5 would be CEC elected, and then what was the one independent chair?
D75.
Got it.
So it would be a 50-50 split of mayoral appointees and political, and the 5 would be parents, instead of having the mayor and political running the bit.
Okay, and then the election details, do you imagine that that would be like happening at the same time as the CEC elections?
No, it comes further on. It'd be the same mechanism, but their elections, because we have to have a president in place. Every CEC has to have a president in place to get the PEP, so it's staggered.
But aren't you suggesting that it would be elected by all parents?
Yes, but currently,
Oh, on the CEC.
currently right now, you have to have a CECs, have to have all their presidents in place. So you can't run the CEC and the PEP at the same time. It has to be staggered. This way, you could run them both at the same time.
Wait, you could? Sorry.
Yes, you could.
That's what I'm asking. So in the proposal, you're saying the election should happen at the same time, like CECs and.
And then you put your PEP members on there also.
So it would be one election cycle where we're electing
PEP.
CEC, PEP, CCC.
Yep, to limit it down. Because right now, parents have no say in who's a PEP person.
Yeah, I mean, certainly
You know, I've been on.
confusing.
I've been on, it could be very flippant. Where you're getting, you have 5, like, they have a nominating committee of like 5 people. Then they go through the rubric. But if everybody's on a certain vision, you're not gonna get a true aspect of who's running. So if you put 5 parent leaders up there, let the public decide the 5.
Yeah.
And the other one is just giving CCs, working with district offices and the superintendents.
Sorry, can you use the mic just for folks online?
So the other one, so the CECs working with the superintendents is just so we're not categorized. Every single school district is different. Every district is different in the city. So when you come out some policies, it's just one size fits all. That doesn't work in some districts. They need to have the power to tweak them, to say, okay, we gotta adjust this a little bit instead of saying, this is what we're gonna do and that's it. That's to give the CECs the power to work with the superintendent to adjust the programs to the way they see fit for parents and the superintendent to work collaboratively.
Sorry, where is that?
That one is the educational policies, and it's also addressing these, under the first improvements to CECs, number 1. Decentralization and district level flexibility.
Why did you decide to include the improvements for CECs in this?
Because it's the governance package. And we're for the DOE governance.
I see. Okay.
Any changes anybody wants to make?
I guess I'm wondering, is there any way that we can condense some of this? I'm just thinking it's like, if the goal is to have elected officials read it,
They don't, what they do is, they'll come in there, give it to a staff member, and tell them to condense it and give me the points. That's what they all do with their resolutions.
What's your question?
Okay, it's not too long. So I agree with Aaliyah. I'm wondering if we couldn't pare it down. Again, like the last resolution, I agree with most of it. The one question I have really is about the borough appointees, and obviously I'm biased because I love ours, but I guess in my mind, there are only one and or two votes, and in a body as large as ours, like, where I get that they could be, the voice and or dictated by what that borough president wants. I also think it's a small percentage of a panel that in theory should be 10. And so I sort of feel icky taking away, for lack of a more intellectual word, taking away their voting rights, I guess. I understand the intention, and I understand the sort of taking back some of the power, but and I know not everyone is jealous of our personal Queensborough appointee, but I feel like there's some phenomenal other appointees I know, and I just feel like then they also feel pointless as to, why are they here if they don't have a vote, I guess?
Under the governor PEP, remove 5.
That would make me very happy.
Take off any mention of ex officio advisory expertise
Yes.
from the borough president, make them voting members.
Yes, that would be my preference only because I do feel they should have a voice, and at the end of the day, if that voice isn't in alignment with our district, they're still going to have a voice, but we will still represent the district in the proper way, if that makes sense.
Okay, so remove that part.
Wait, I guess I have a clarifying question. So why wouldn't we do, since we're, kind of inventing it newly now anyway, what if it was like 6 mayor appointees, 5 borough appointees, 5 CEC elected? I guess I'm not clear. Where is the borough appointees in the new structure that we're proposing?
They're being eliminated. That's how the parents lose voice. The parents lose their voice because if you want, say the mayor's your best friend. He has his appointees, but we want to control the PEP. Put your people on there to vote my way. Now you control the PEP, parents have no more voice left. It's eliminated. Because you're overpowered. Because each borough, you have 6 mayoral appointees, 5.
No, I see that it would be
So you have 11.
statistically larger. I'm just, sorry, I'm thinking.
Because what this wants really to do is to get to have parents have more say in policies that are going to affect them, taking more into politics.
I guess so. What I'm not understanding what you were saying, Kate, because if we're removing borough appointees,
Their ability to vote.
well, but
They would hold
where
the
are the borough appointees in this new proposal?
So if you go to improvements for CECs, look up topic 5.
Okay, so there would be no borough appointees in the PEP.
Page 5.
So, but there would be no borough appointees in the PEP. It would just be in CECs.
No, they would be considered full members. When there's full member, they have the same authority as any CEC member, which means they could be appointed to a PEP.
I see.
Because we're removing that ex officio advisory. They're no longer advisors, they're full members, so when you're full member, you have the same as any other member.
And the role, like the function of the borough appointee would be focused in the CEC.
The same as it is now. It wouldn't change.
But is there a borough appointee in the PEP now?
Yes, each borough president has power. And that's where you get that number that's off. That's where you get that offset of power.
Between the mayor appointees and the borough appointees?
Yep, between all them. So actually it makes sense to remove the ex officio because if a borough appointee wants to run for PEP, it would open the seat up for them. Take it.
Okay, there's a number of comments in the chat. Is there anyone else live that wants to add anything?
If anybody has questions.
Any questions?
I have a question, like it's, I really love the resolution because it talks about the parent involvement. But I have a question, like regarding, like you said that PEP has like 14 members which are selected by the mayor from a nominee list. So I just wondered, they would be qualified educated or professional people, right?
For the mayor's appointments?
Yeah.
No, it could be
Just have a
anybody.
question.
Could be anybody, anybody.
They're not like qualified people who
It
take
could
on
be,
the betterment
it
of
could be
people.
whoever he likes to appoint.
And the second thing was, is there no, currently is there no representation of students' voice in that?
No, yes, PIP is student members, but they're not voting. Yeah, two or, I think maybe four. Yeah, yeah, other meetings they have to speak.
So, okay, yeah, that was.
You know, and this one also cuts down the requirements for having a senior member, having a high school senior be on the CEC. Be active in student government. That eliminates this requirement, saying you have to be a junior. That's why we can't fill these seats, because no senior wants to do it.
Yeah, I definitely like that idea.
So my main concern here is that this is pushing representation aside for efficiency. Because when you actually shrink the number of people, you're losing representation. That's a big concern of mine.
But
You're
President,
pushing efficiency over that.
no, I want to say efficiency. We're pushing,
You are.
we're pushing for parents' voice, because right now, parents,
You're counting it under parent voice. But it's actually efficiency based. And your model is based on corporate boards, not on a system as large as New York City. New York City is larger than any corporate board, and the governance has to be larger.
so years ago,
Because it's representing more.
so in 2024, the PEP was this size.
I understand what you're saying.
So the mayor wasn't getting across the projects he wanted to do. So he really came and flooded it. And guess what? Now every project they want gets approved. If the parents say no, it gets approved.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, the mayor is still accountable, right?
The mayor's accountable for,
The mayoral control, like if he put assigns people to PEP, at the end of the day, the mayor is responsible for those bad choices, right? And so that's where elections come in. If the mayor does a bad job, they're elected out, right?
not all the time.
Not all the time, but it does happen, right? Like, we have seen it, but we
Yeah.
just had a not so great mayor that was voted out.
And yeah, not so good mayor that was voted in twice.
Well, yeah, the pendulum can swing, but my point is that you can't base governance in New York City schools based on corporate figures. It's just
So-
not the same size.
So Julisha, would you want it to be larger?
24, I think, is a good number, but shrinking it, actually, you can lose representation from other parts of the city. You can't do that.
Yeah, I guess when I read this, I also felt sort of indifferent to the size. Like 24 doesn't seem like so crazy to me. And I guess to me, what's more important is like the percentages and like the representation. That seems important. As opposed to dictating like specific numbers and then it has to be 12. I mean, you said that you served on PEP and...
No, I served on the election house.
Oh, I see. So, you know, I don't have experience, maybe it is unwieldy, but I don't know that that's like a given, it's not like a fact necessarily to me.
So what numbers would you suggest?
I guess I wasn't sure that us stating a number was so important, as like, it seems like the more important part is to state the percentages.
Well,
And
before
like,
they would do this, they'd come back and talk to us. They wouldn't just, because what it is, the state payroll control is coming up. So if we want to have parents' voice, this is our opportunity, but we can limit what we want out of it. But if we don't say no, the PEP is not a parent-controlled organization.
no, understood, but it seemed to me that the number 12 was not an important part of this. That wasn't the core of this, of the message here.
You're right.
It was, I mean, again, I don't feel super strongly about like 12 or 24 or whatnot, but I guess in the spirit of trying to get to the heart of it, I guess I'm asking you, like, do you think that 12 is important, or is it the percentages of having 50-50 parent election?
Like we're
That's the
finding
bigger
the equity
exception.
of representation.
That's having fair representation on both sides.
Yeah, so if it was 14, I mean, does that really matter? Like,
But how do you come to that 14? You got 5 boroughs. You got to represent all your boroughs. You got D75, that'd be your 6. Who would get 2 seats?
okay. I mean, again, I don't feel super strongly about this number, it's just
Yeah,
like,
no, the numbers aren't the main thing of this.
yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying
The
to.
main gist of this whole thing is let's have equal governance. If you say you want parents' voices, then pass something similar to this and let's have true parent engagement. Don't have a panel that's controlled by politicians and tell us that's parents' voice.
Understood,
You know, 58, you still control the board.
Yeah.
Make it 50-50.
I do want to read some of these comments. I think we've addressed some of them through the modification. Okay, so the PEP nomination committee process and rubric have not meaningfully changed since inception. Can you clarify what has changed now that makes this resolution necessary? Kayla Spence. So you were saying that you introduced this now because
mayoral control is up.
mayor control is up.
Yep, it's coming up for review. Because at first the mayor said he doesn't want mayoral control.
Yes.
Then once he saw it, that he's gonna lose power, he's like, I want that power.
Gina commented, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to comment.
We were talking about the borough, right?
One of my biggest concerns is the removal of voting power. I think we addressed that. In relation to PEP nomination committee, why alter a process where CEC presidents who are accountable to and in regular communication with their communities already select qualified representatives with built-in transparency and oversight?
Because I've been on the nominating committee myself, and there has been no transparency at all. They were supposed to follow the rubric. When the members asked for the rubric, the council, I voted in favor of submitting it. They said no, the public or other CEC presidents not get to see the rubric that we used. So that's why I'm asking for transparency. Because I've been in a position to see it as not transparent.
Got it. Parents do have a say, and there is a mechanism to remove the CEC elected representatives now. D200 does allow members elected by CEC presidents to be removed if 2/3 of that borough's CEC president determine removal is appropriate. Parents can tell their CEC members to begin the process to recall those members. I guess I don't remember if that was a part of this.
No, GS or D210? Pretty much you can't remove a CEC member unless they did something extreme.
I don't think removal of CEC members is part of this resolution, is that correct?
No.
Okay, Whitney, if you want to clarify your comment there, let us know. Kayla, why is a broad parent voting model considered more representative when low turnout could actually make it less reflective of the full parent community? On its face, it sounds inclusive, but I think it actually is less representative in my opinion. I did have a concern about that, and that's why I asked about the election functionality. So it would be one election where we're doing one turnout the vote, one.
It'd be the same as the CEC election.
No, but would it be at the same time?
It can't be at the same time. It cannot be at the same time because your CEC elections, you can't do it at the same time because you don't know who's gonna have a seat on the
Yeah.
CEC.
I guess that was my concern too.
And that's the way it's currently, that's the way it works now.
But it's just 1 year, not 2, you're saying?
Correct.
So I guess, Kayla, to respond directly, there already is somewhat of a low turnout. Please feel free to follow up if I'm not capturing your question here. Gina says, I think this may be unintentionally limiting the diverse voices in the system. A small number of people vote in broad CEC elections. CEC presidents advocate for their whole district and listen to their communities. Okay, I know it's getting late. I'll just read through the rest of these. So, Whitney, borough president appointees to the PEP have to be public school parents. That is in the law. The current law states that each borough president's appointee shall be a resident of the borough for which the borough president appointing him or her was elected and shall be the parent of the child attending a public school within the city school district, the school of the city of New York. So I think that was in response to the borough president appointees not necessarily being representatives of the parents. No, I don't think we said that. I think this was an earlier point.
Because the borough president appointees knows to be a store or many residents in the community.
Well, they're saying that it has to be a parent.
That's not true. I can only, I go to deli next door to the school. It's part of my school, it's part of my community. I'm allowed to have a seat by the borough president.
I mean, we should double check that, because Whitney's
know.
Whitney's pasting like the exact text.
I think they just have one, just go for it, because the comments will go on. Yeah, I cut it off sometime. I think that when you are creating such changes in an amendment like this, that it might be a good idea to create sort of like a summary report of what each of these changes in the segments would do, what we have currently, and what the changes would improve, the pluses and the minuses to the changes that might better clarify to both the parents reading this amendment and to the council members what will actually change in the machine that we're trying to change. Because with every change, there's always a reaction, and we want to make sure that the changes that we make will make it more efficient and it will work for everyone. Maybe I would just suggest that maybe the council could make a summary report of these amendments, because these are pretty wordy the way they're written here, that we can just give an example. Here is how it works here, and this is the change that we're going to make, and why the reason for this change, and hopefully that will improve things.
Thank you for the discussion. Is there other topics? Other questions?
So if you want to take a roll call vote, I will move forward. Just we move into one part regarding the borough president appointee as official advisory entities to make them a full member of the committee. Not removing. Moving the word that. Moving the word that the ex officio advisory entities. Page 5.
I think it's page 5, yeah. Page 5, section 5.
Page 5.
Yeah, page 5,
Number
yeah.
5.
And also on following page 4. So any mention of ex officio advisory status for borough appointee removed.
The top one?
Any mention of it, doesn't matter where it is, any mention of ex officio advisory status regarding the borough president appointee, all language, and no matter what section of this resolution, be removed.
Okay.
I still have concerns about, this isn't just more than vertical, this is a structural change that you're asking for the path. So I still have concerns about that.
Are we able to table it, or do we have to, I mean, I'm not trying to ask.
Yeah, I was going to recommend that. I feel like this one and the other one, we could potentially have like a working session, and we can talk more in detail about, the wording and some of the details. I'm not ready to vote yes on it. That's, I guess, sorry, I'm jumping the gun.
Yeah, we table it.
So why not to make like a two resolutions? One pertaining only to the tech changes and the other one to the CEC. So
Because when you,
easier for us to
when you send it up there because the state law, his mayoral control is coming up, so you want everything in one compact page instead of saying, well, we'll give you this, but we're not taking that. So you want everything in one hand.
I mean, do other folks want to say if they're ready to vote for this or not?
Or a motion to table till after another meeting can be held.
Yeah, I suggest that we have a working session, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any second, sorry, what is it, second?
Motion, I
I
second.
motion to table it for a working session.
Second.
So that's
Thank you.
section 199 is table.
So what we'll do, as the author of the next one, the universal screening testing, I'll table it to the next meeting until I get back here so I can give you guys a summary of easier language. 200.
200, yep, that's awesome.
Matt, how would you feel about including all of these in a working session, where like we had a meeting just dedicated to like talking through these, just because I have gone through them, and so I have some edits that I would like to
that's no
discuss
problem.
through.
That's no problem. The one is time sensitive, that's just, I can see the date.
Understood. Which date are we working towards?
The date's time, I find that is the mayoral appointee.
Okay. So that's the one that we
Because
got,
that's
right?
the one,
And that's June 1st? Is that right? No, what is the date?
I have to look back at it. Because what we do is then, we would go, I'll talk offline, we can talk about it
Okay.
in a second.
All right,
Okay, but we should do it soon, is what you're saying, and I agree.
okay.
Yes, and to everyone in the comments, thank you for your input, and we'll make sure to post notice so that folks can weigh in, hopefully in person, that'd be great.
Okay.
Yep. 201.
Oh. Here. I have two 200s.
Resolution 201, asking the New York State Department of Health to add epinephrine inhalants to the state policy. Whereas anaphylaxis is a severe and potentially life-threatening allergic reaction that requires immediate treatment, and whereas epinephrine is the first-line emergency treatment for anaphylaxis and prompt administration can save lives, and whereas Chancellor's Regulation 8715 refers to stock epinephrine primarily in terms of epinephrine auto-injectors and relatable injectable devices, and whereas New York State enacted legislation in 2025 expanding the definition of an epinephrine device to include not only auto-injectors, but also nasal spray devices for the emergency treatment of persons appearing to experience anaphylactic symptoms, which was such legislation taking effect on January 1st, 2026. And whereas Community Education Council District 24 believes that New York City Public Schools regulations and operational guidance should be updated promptly to reflect current state law and to ensure that students, staff, and visitors have access to all legal and authorized life-saving epinephrine options. And whereas Community Education Council District 24 has met with representatives of ARS Pharmaceuticals regarding epinephrine nasal spray device. And whereas Community Education Council District 24 has reached out to get New York Public Schools included in the free school access process for NEPI, so that once Chancellor's Regulations A715 is updated to include epinephrine nasal spray devices, schools may receive this medication at no cost. And whereas for District 24, the approximate cost of supplying schools with this medication would otherwise be about $81,000, but inclusion in the free process would reduce that cost to $0. And whereas making epinephrine nasal spray devices available in schools will strengthen emergency preparedness and help ensure that students, staff, and visitors have access to life-saving treatment options during an anaphylactic emergency. Now therefore be it resolved that Community Education Council District 24 calls upon Chancellor Kamal Samuels to revise Chancellor's Regulation A715 and any related implementation guidance, training materials, and operational documents so that they explicitly include epinephrine nasal spray devices, including NEPI, wherever the regulation currently refers only to epinephrine auto-injectors or injectable epinephrine devices. And be it further resolved that Community Education Council District 24 urges New York City Public Schools to ensure that all schools are authorized to stock and administer legally permitted epinephrine nasal spray devices in the same manner as other stock epinephrine devices, consistent with state law. And be it further resolved that Community Education Council District 24 requests that New York City Public Schools work with appropriate medical, legal, and operational staff to implement updated guidance on the storage, training, use, replacement, and dosage availability of epinephrine nasal spray devices in school buildings. And be it further resolved that Community Education Council District 24 urges New York City Public Schools to pursue available no-cost partnerships and programs
including the free school access process for NEPI, in order to make epinephrine nasal spray devices available in every school building in District 24 and across New York City. And be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be transmitted to Chancellor Kumar Samuels, the panel for educational policy, the New York State Department of Health, the New York State Education Department, elected officials representing District 24, and other relevant policies. Any questions? Or comments?
Me again, hi. I was just curious, I love this initiative, thank you for doing this, making this connection. And I was just curious about this District 24 meeting with pharmaceutical ARS.
So pretty much what it was, I was on a Northeast School Board meeting.
Matt, can you use the microphone? I'm sorry.
Oh.
So there's another association called the Northeast School Boards. I was on that meeting. They were talking about how other schools in other states already had this program going. I then reached out to Mark Ravensant, the School Division of Health. I put out there D24 because I just want to be inclusive, but I'll go over the middle work. I'll be honest. At which time I spoke to Mark Ravensant. He stated that the policy has to be changed. I then reached out to the owner of the company, stating for New York City schools be included in this program if we were to get a resolution passed. The owner of the company, Brett, I forget his last name, said yes he will. And he said within 2 weeks I'll have every New York City school listed on my website to apply for free. This way, once the DOE does pass it, you're immediately able to send your school for free. It was about 15 phone calls back and forth.
That's amazing. And I think just, moving forward, I'd love to, did that happen recently? When did that happen?
It took me about 2.5 months to finalize everything, to get them to agree to put every New York City, like you on there right now, this school's listed to get signed up for the free program right now. All the medical forms that are needed on there. So every school in New York City was applied to, not just District 24.
That's incredible work, and we should know about it and advertise that and make sure that everyone knows all the work that you're doing and, not just bury it in a resolution.
Yeah, no.
So, maybe that's just like a process that we can talk through about, like side projects and how we can
I just look for them
spread the word.
I just look for them and do them.
I totally understand. I know that's your style, and you get a lot done, and I wonder if there's also ways that we can spread the work and...
Well, what we do after this one, if we pass this resolution, we can then take this, adapt it out, and send it out to every other CEC. In the city, they pass it, then it gets passed at the city level, and then the program begins for free for everybody.
Yeah, again, I think this is amazing, and I'm really excited for it, and I would love to, have known about it earlier, is really what I'm saying, and that's like no shade to the work that you've been doing, and I really respect and honor that, and I'm just thinking through in the future, are there ways that we can be more aware of what, each initiative that members are doing, and not to slow you down, but...
Yeah, sometimes they don't pan out. Yeah. So instead of wasting, sometimes they don't pan out, so instead of wasting everybody's time, there's a lot of initiatives.
There's a lot of details to it, for sure. Okay, one note here, could the resolution include the information about the limitations of the fruit program and how funding should be obtained to ensure there are enough NEPI devices in the schools? Right now, the website says all public, private K-12 schools in the U.S. will be eligible to receive 2 cartons for single-use doses of NEPI for free. Would more be needed? I guess it's like a quantity question of do you know how many each school would need in an ideal state? Because it looks like it's about 4 per student based on the information on the website.
Oh, maybe it's only 1 on site. It's very rare, I think 49. We only saw 1 school ever, I think you were with me, that had an emergency one where they break the glass. I've never seen it before. They're typically kept in the nurse's office.
Okay.
Because that's who administers medication.
So in theory, you don't need...
But they do give you 3, they give you 2 samples, but it goes by weight. So you'll have 2 kits with 3 divisions, like A, B, C, depending on your weight division. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Brian just said who would manage this?
The nurse's office, the same way The same way they currently do it at least.
Do you think that's important to add as like just a line?
No, it's actually is a New York City standard policy already. The DOE already has that in place.
Whitney, I'm sorry, I'm not understanding. You're saying, could the resolution include information about the limitations of the free program? I'm not sure that it's...
What limitations? Whitney?
Well, she's basically saying that the website says that it'll be 2 cartons per school, which based on what you said, it sounds like a fine a number.
Yeah.
Yeah, because as an EpiPen mom, like, please use the mic. Oh, sorry. No, as an EpiPen mom, I think this is an emergency situation only alternative. So in theory, we're not stocking the school. In theory, it's literally, we have this in case of an emergency type situation, right?
Yes, yes. No, we're not using this to say, here's your epi, here's yours. No, it's just for in-house emergency.
Thank you.
So you have a peanut allergy in the cafeteria. The child doesn't have an epi with them. No problem. The nurse breaks it down, administers it.
And I assume this is like a standard pharmaceutical where there's a expiration date and so they have to throw it away at a certain time.
I'm sure it is.
They would be able to replenish it.
Yeah, it has to be. We just got
Yeah,
my
it's
son's
like
EpiPen revamp today, so.
Okay.
And we just switched over to that in my house. Yeah.
I'm aligned. Any other questions?
Who's authorized?
Who's authorized at the schools to administer that? So it's only the nurse, if there's an issue and the nurse is not present, how do we get this drug into the kids?
There are other people in the building, right? Your BRT members usually typically trained in it.
Some.
But, you know, some
Yeah.
aides.
I mean, if the nurse is out, there has to be someone as a delegate to the nurse, right? Like a backup nurse or someone who can take on the nurse's role if they're out or...
In situations where there isn't, then we contact the family, and so that family's aware. But that could happen.
Yeah.
We have situations. Go ahead.
I can, yeah, so, every school, the nurse trains, it's a preliminary training for all staff members, and they use a training.
Yeah, I think.
And that's not, doesn't have the right, but they all go through the training process. If you have a child in the school that has a medical condition that requires an EpiPen, there's medical documentation the nurse has, that and those teachers and paraprofessionals, sometimes the student will have a one-to-one paraprofessional, sometimes even a nurse, a one-to-one nurse, depending on the severity of their condition, and they're trained more thoroughly with the nurse. But the principal is trained as well. There's other folks in the building that are trained more specifically. And sometimes the families will have an EpiPen, one definitely with the nurse, with the teacher, the principal sometimes has an EpiPen for that student. I remember as a principal, I had like 4 that were separate ones.
Everybody gets it.
They just wanted to know that they were safe anywhere they went in the building.
Okay.
And the pen was around there.
Thank you.
You got a question?
Whoa, sorry.
Hold on, I got you.
Who has a question?
The lady in there with the brown jacket. Or African, yeah.
I'm just wondering, do you guys get together and discuss this, and then you have this meeting, and then there's another board meeting? How does this work?
This is the problem.
Just the logistics, I mean, because there's some good questions the board has, and I was just wondering if...
So what is we typically, we cannot meet out of this meeting. Or we will do this meeting, but our business meeting is after this.
If it was before the meeting, then we can hash this out, and then present it to...
So usually what we tend to do, this is the first time we've ever had this issue in years regarding the resolutions, the questions. It has, usually the members get the resolutions, they read them, if they have questions, they email back.
Well, I did.
Yeah, like yesterday, there was like 30 questions. You know, so.
I mean, you sent them.
24 hours, I had time to fill 30 questions out.
I understand.
Yeah.
But you sent it over spring break.
Yeah, no, usually, what we do is, we had check-ins with face. So we need to more check-in with face when stuff is put on the agenda like this, that people truly have questions about. Yeah. No, I agree.
It's an important point.
Yes. Yep, we're having a business meeting after this. The problem we have with that is you'll never get enough people to come.
Yeah, but it's like, there's nobody here.
No,
So it would be,
not even for members.
yeah. But I'm just saying, like, for parents to participate in this process, it would be nice if it was a little bit more streamlined.
Sure.
So, you know, like, I want to see more parents here.
Yeah, but maybe if we could just get a vote on this, it's 9:30.
Yeah, totally, absolutely.
I think it's totally
Please
valid, and it's something that definitely came up. It's like, maybe we need to rethink some of our sort of business processes, for sure. But yeah, voting, I'm seconding to vote, right?
Yeah. So, Matt Curcio,
Support.
here, Anna Kowarska, Brian Augustine,
Support.
Leah Bonner,
Support.
Nisha James, Kate Corbett,
Support?
Lucy Q, yes, resolution is to on passing.
Motion closed.
Yeah.
Second.
Motion to open business meeting.
Yes.
Okay, roll call. Here.
Dean Missouri is absent, Lucy Q, present, Anna Kowarska, Brian Augustine,
Present.
Leah Bonner,
Here.
Nisha James, Kate Corbett.
Present.
So Janice sent out the minutes to everybody. Everybody had a chance to overlook them?
Yes.
Approved?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? The treasurer's report, everything is just about suspension, all we have is just reimbursement. Okay, so the fears, we can hear. I am suggesting for our July and August meetings, we hold it at 71. It would be the third, whatever bylaws state. It would be the fourth. Janet, what's their bylaws, the fourth Thursday? Fourth
Yes,
Tuesday?
the fourth Tuesday per month.
The fourth Tuesday of every month.
Can we get like a schedule?
Janet will put.
Yeah. So it's either the 21st or the 28th of July.
So Janet, tomorrow, next day, can you get us a stat calendar out with every fourth day falls on?
We just started it. Should we, yeah, thank you all for coming. Thank you for being here for 3-4 hours. Thanks for being part of the conversation.
Yeah, so Janet, can you get the schedule for the meeting dates for the next season? For June moving forward? Yeah.
Where's your child going?
There
we go.
I'm officially going to be proud parent of the District 24 today.
Take care. Have a good night. Thank you for coming.
Let's say,
Old
let's
business?
say. Bad news, you're here. Good news, it's gonna be a record trip home. Let's see.
Thank you, everyone, for staying.
New business, the action today.
Oh, that's robbery. Get it to 49 and it's all.
Here, I'll take over.
Safe trip home.
Good night, thank you.
What was that?
So what do you want to do with the action tonight? Excuse? Everybody in favor of tonight being excused for dinner?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. It was somehow just only last week, yes.
Yeah, so they had like a presentation, left behind about this group of parents who were looking up like the learning centers for dyslexic kids in the Bronx and in Manhattan. But CAT specifically requested that we be there May 19th. I know that's our next meeting, but SCA is going to be there. And she's like, she's like, this is a big deal with all kinds of kids, we want CEC24 there.
It doesn't matter, you talk SC, you can move it, please.
I don't think that that's her point. Her point is that our presence there is important. It's not a matter of.
Who's available to that?
Well, we have our meetings, at this point, no one is available.
No.
But we should talk about whether we should move that meeting.
I'm not, no. What's the reason for moving? Why, how about Captain first?
Because the Queensboro,
Because we gotta have that meeting. We should have that meeting the 19th, because this way if there's any issues, if we push it to 26, it's too late. If we have an issue with the Chancellor's Town Hall, we have a 5-day window. The other way it gives us,
Yeah, but don't we have the option of having a meeting between those days if there are issues with Chancellor's Town Hall? Like, don't we have an option of calling an executive meeting?
who will come?
on the 19th through 26th.
Who came to the one for the kids at 199? Do we still have it?
Because they would like to see you.
I don't think we put forward.
We don't know that we would pull quorum. We're making an assumption. We don't know that. Okay, and if the Queensboro president is specifically asking for a presence, that's not something that we should ignore.
So they're asking. So the May 19th, but the problem is if Jalissa goes and anyone else is absent, we won't have quorum.
Right.
Rather than if, and then we can have a meeting, but it's pointless because we can't vote. Hold on. So,
And Matt, you were concerned about moving it to the 26th because it's too close to the town hall?
No,
Also, 26 is like after the weekend.
Yes, understood. Yeah, I just,
Yeah.
27th is
We're
our,
off the 25th and the 27th.
27th is not.
oh, it's Eve.
27th is
It's Eid. Eid.
Eid, I'm sorry. did I say
It's
that?
Eid, yeah. Yeah, so we'll ask. I gotta see.
plus,
I gotta see this new
Donna,
calendar that goes- there's a
what
whole
about
lot of-
No, I think it's currently on the 19th.
It's on the 19th.
May, 15th.
There's definitely one on the calendar, right?
Yeah, but that's not a mandatory meeting, so let's not put that up there yet.
Yeah, let's not
keep
talk
that
about
in
that.
the
Let's
back.
not flood it, yeah.
Yeah, that's-
Is it
keep
possible
that
to do
whole
a
back.
Wednesday or Thursday? Or, I know people have schedules, but.
20th?
Yeah,
Well, it says it has to be on the 4th Tuesday.
but we could adjust it Tuesdays.
Really, it has to be on Tuesday?
That's where, we never had a Thursday or stuff.
We're having it
It
at,
seems
so
random.
343 was an issue, right?
Why is
So we're
Tuesday
having it at
so important?
71.
Seventy-one.
No talking.
Yeah, because that's in Sunset, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, it's
What
at
time is
6:30.
What time is the Queensboro president?
6:30.
But is this a sit down with just CEC24 and the SCA?
Honestly, this thing that we went to, we were pretty much the only ones there.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was.
But SCA was there?
No. This was a separate thing, but Anthony was there, I was there, Jalissa was there, and it was pointed out that like, basically that CEC24 had a presence. And that was why, because you've been a strong voice.
I can honestly tell you, you've been to the meetings.
Yeah, I know.
SCA does not care if you come there with 300 people.
Oh, no, we didn't have.
They don't care.
No, I know.
It was,
But we gotta start packing up everybody.
Yeah.
I just say, I've been dealing with this game with SCA, you could bring 300 people to a room. They
I
don't
understand your
care.
frustration. I understand.
They don't care.
But some of us are new and we would like to build those relationships. And so we
But
can't ignore it.
There's no relationship to be built.
That may be your experience,
That's-
but it may not be my experience.
I can tell you, it's the experience of the gentleman who's speaking tonight is 28. Same exact experience, duplicate. It's every CEC throughout the whole entire city.
I just, then you may have to be prepared that I may not be here for this.
Okay.
So do we want to move to 12 or no?
I don't know.
No, Trump, I got.
May 20, after Memorial Day. But we can only do Tuesdays, we cannot do Wednesday or.
I know, that's what Aaliyah said.
What does your bylaw say? I think once you come out of your meeting.
Well, it says 4th Tuesday, but if we're gonna change it from the not 4th, then why can't it just be Wednesday? I don't know.
I mean, it has, your scheduled meeting is that meeting. If you change it, then it's either gotta be, I guess, like a special meeting or a change and let everybody, you gotta do that notice, like,
Yeah.
10-day notice of letting everybody know what you're doing next.
Sure. So I guess the question is, do we want to move it, or do we just keep it on the 19th and assume that Jalissa will not be present?
Because Tuesdays are good for me. I have no.
But you could represent it. I mean, I,
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're gonna be bored. Yeah. She'll probably be here.
Okay. No, understood. I mean, they requested you, that's,
We want the village secretary.
Okay, so motion to keep it at 5:19.
That's what I would say. This way, if we have any issues with Chancellor's Town Hall, we need more check-ins, we can schedule there, it gives us more of a week's period to get stuff done, instead of saying we're going to 26 and we got 5 days to be there, because we're already a month behind. Usually it takes 3 months to plan this out. We're now
Okay.
pretty tight.
I'm fine to keep it, the 19th, motion to keep it at 5:19. Is this our?
Oh, no, we don't need a motion. You don't need it.
Okay, so while we're all here though, I do want to talk about town hall really quick. So, I asked Donna to send out, and I know you have a lot of messages going
I
out.
was waiting till tomorrow's cups and combo, because
Understood.
I confuse everybody.
I understand. So she's sending out the survey now. I recommended that we schedule a phone call, and basically call it a special meeting and have a parent, this is my thought.
No, you can't do that. You can't call a special meeting. You
Sorry,
can't do
what?
that.
Why not? What?
Because our meetings by our bylaws are in person and virtual. A committee is a totally different thing, because.
So
committees are not
is the
making
town
decisions.
hall planning a committee?
No.
You can create a committee for that if you want, can't you?
I guess you could.
I guess I'm saying, so my thought is that we have a video call or whatnot. Parents can join and be part of it, but that would give us a chance to talk through all the possible questions, make sure we're not asking two of the same questions, and do that work of refining what our questions.
Check with Maribel. Just keep it simple.
Well, you had suggested that we might need multiple times to do that, so I was suggesting.
You're definitely gonna need multiple times.
So, okay, so I'm trying to get them on the calendar now because everyone's calendars fill up. So my suggestion was that we do it on the 14th or the 15th at 6 p.m. would be one of our conversations, and that everybody here would have their questions in that document that you started by that day.
Maribel's on jury duty, so we can't.
So she has to be there?
Hold on, so what we're proposing is that we need a mechanism to get the feedback. And
No,
based on
so-
the feedback,
just
decide
to, no,
questions.
just to go over
We need to
all of the chances.
finalize,
Yes.
so Matt said we need to send our questions to Maribel latest 5:20. We're now tracking towards having it finished on the 18th, and like, if we really need it, one more check-in on the 19th. So in order to get there, my recommendation was that we schedule a phone call now for the 14th or the 15th at 6 p.m. and we can have it be a committee or whatnot, and then we would go through all the different questions and finalize it there. I can take the lead on preparing for that call so that it's like a 1-hour conversation. And then we would finalize, synthesize, and send it out.
So,
I think,
what I was just.
how do you create a committee? Because I feel like that's the easiest way to
The
do
committee,
it.
yeah.
Create a committee,
Number one.
send out a thing, let a parent see if a parent wants, right? Because a parent has to be on the
Yes,
committee.
yes,
to be
understood.
Out of the.
Yeah, well, all we can simply do, and we have the guidance with us, because Maribel's our guide for this.
Right.
Well, while we're listening to Maribel, give us 3 Wednesdays. An hour each one.
So what I will do tomorrow is speak to her and do 2 things. One, how do you create a committee if you have to? That's the only
We
question.
wouldn't have to. We don't. So what we do is.
Maribel's there, correct?
If Maribel is there, we can have everybody on the call. With no outside people.
You really can't talk business is what I'm a little.
I'm not talking about business. This is just town hall
But
logistics.
it's business.
I guess I'm asking.
So the things you guys do as a CEC are business.
Sure.
You're not meant to do that behind the scenes.
Okay.
A committee
So
is
that's
not
why,
a
okay, so
committee
can
is not behind the
we,
scenes.
so can we make this a committee?
So let me just, that's what I'm asking is how do you create one?
But I have some check-in basis with my
Yes, that was the second piece that I didn't get a chance to say. So I did send an email to Maribel asking if we could take our 5-6 check-in with her and turn that into the in-person walkthrough, Matt, that you recommended that we have to do. So that would mean we have a 5-6 in-person walkthrough with Maribel, and then the following week, we have a committee meeting to work through the questions. I think those 2 meetings, if we lock them in now, we will be prepared.
What, the walkthrough?
So the walkthrough, I'm recommending 5-6, and I asked Maribel if we could do that. She hasn't gotten back to me. And then my suggestion was that we form a committee called
And my folder
Special
and
Events.
Manisha's
Yeah, the
I don't know.
walkthroughs be 1, 2, 3, because this is just a this is actually a secondary one.
Town hall planning committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
That's
I
all.
will
We're-
make that now. I've been trying to suggest this, and I'm getting a lot of mixed feedback, so I'd like to get these
Sounds great.
dates. I have travel coming up, so I'm trying to make sure that I can
May 6th.
do this.
May
So
14th.
I'll email it
Okay,
out,
yeah,
but
yeah,
are there
perfect.
concerns with moving forward with that approach?
No.
So we do the walkthrough the first week of May?
Why wouldn't you consider the walkthrough a check-in? That's not even a check-in, that's just meeting up.
Okay, that's fine. It's just something you had mentioned in email that needs to get done, so I'm
Yeah,
trying to make sure it
we'll go back for a
happens.
second walkthrough, but that's not like a check-in, like we're going there to talk about questions and stuff. Just going there saying,
So
okay.
you think we need a separate check-in with Maribel?
Oh, absolutely, we need a few, quite a few.
So I think you need.
Well, I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. Why do we need so many check-ins with her?
Because by the time you get done with this, you're gonna have 20 questions. You have 20, 30 questions by the time the public submits them and the council members. Now you gotta pick out what categories you wanna do. Now each member has to decide, and you gotta take votes on.
Right,
on
I do
those
this
people.
for a living.
And then
I
you gotta
could-
finalize it.
Yes.
And you only have an hour in each check-in about. So you have 2 hours to prepare for a meeting.
So
Okay.
I think that you have the operational piece, right, which is just the walkthrough, make sure everything's gonna be smooth.
Yeah, that's easy.
That's what that, and then I think what I hear you saying is that we just need to plan.
We need to schedule
look
it.
into the stuff. So-
I can't randomly get on a call tomorrow.
Okay, so why don't we, let me reach out to Maribel. Hopefully I'll have an answer for her tomorrow. I think that the best way, one is to do a committee so that you're not tied to having to be public, because that became the big
And
problem.
we can certainly have it on Zoom and have it
Yeah,
be
and then
available.
let me ask her, then the next step is the committee, is like the check-in on top of that. And then can you guys use some kind of like form or something to
We
kind
have
of
a
go
form.
through?
We have a
No, I
form
mean, once-
started.
I mean, like, once you devise the questions, right?
This
Once you
one.
choose them, okay.
Yeah.
You're gonna choose them, put them in something, and then you guys.
She's like a
rank
ninja.
them.
No, so, okay, I hear you, and I guess what I'm hearing is that we need we need to build in another conversation, is what you're saying.
I feel it's minimum 3 check-ins, 3 meetings.
3 meetings? I'm sorry, that seems a little
And
excessive.
tomorrow, when you do cups and, tell me if this is, tomorrow when you do cups and conversations, don't you think it would be good if she mentioned, please, because those people that are on the call are the ones that are gonna fill out this
I don't
form.
want to muddy it's a
Yeah,
different
I don't wanna do that
conversation.
either,
But she
because you
can't
guys
mention
are
that there'll be a
separate.
form to
No,
keep an
I'll
eye
tell
out
you
for.
what
It's
you
just,
do
it's
is-
just different.
Yeah, like, that wouldn't be, there's no need for it.
No.
You're gonna keep up.
People are gonna fill it out and,
You're gonna
okay.
send me that thing, I'm gonna let you know what the message is.
But Donna, is Maribel, like, she's on jury duty.
Yeah, is she here?
Like, why
Like,
is it that we don't have somebody
No,
who takes her
there is
place?
somebody, I'm gonna, let
We
me,
do it tomorrow.
let me find
I
out
don't
what's
remember
going
his
on.
name.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called.
Yeah.
Mario?
No.
No,
Okay, so I guess what I'm asking is, are you guys aligned for me to schedule some calls, figure this out with Maribel, and then I'll put them on our calendars
Yes.
so that we can work the questions out within these meetings and not have it be like a big looming
Yeah, let's just figure out
thing.
what date